Chapter 152. Xiao Chen had just advanced to inferior grade martial Grand Master not long ago. He needed to stabilize his cultivation. The surging spiritual energy circulated in his body for a great cycle. Finally, it all flowed into his dantian. It was like a surging flood. The river instantly swelled up. The tiny blue dragon swam freely in the river, occasionally creating splashes. These splashes were the purest essence. With just a thought from Xiao Chen, the river immediately surged with a huge wave. A huge amount of essence poured out from his dantian and flowed into the various meridians in his body. The essence permeated his meridians and entered his skin, flesh, and bones, nourishing Xiao Chen's strong physical body. When the essence was exhausted, the spiritual energy that he absorbed from the surroundings flowed back into his dantian, repeating this process over and over again. Time passed very quickly while Xiao Chen was cultivating. When Xiao Chen opened his eyes, the sky was already bright. After stretching his legs, Xiao Chen felt refreshed, filled with boundless energy. Knock! 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 There was a series of knocks on the door. Lu Ruyue's melodious voice could be heard. "Little disciple, stop sleeping in. It's time to wake up." Just as Lu Ruyue was about to continue knocking, the door to Xiao Chen's room suddenly opened. Lu Ruyue looked at the energetic Xiao Chen and said, "You are in good spirits. Let's go. In the future, remember to go to the dueling grounds punctually at this time. If you don't go, you will be punished." Xiao Chen nodded and said, "It seems like I have not eaten breakfast yet. It's best not to. Otherwise, your stomach will spoil," Lu Ruyue said casually with a smile on her face. "That's serious?" Xiao Chen had a bad feeling in his heart. He followed Lu Ruyue and arrived at a vast dueling ground. This dueling ground was very large. It was completely made of the hard heavenly mountain stone. Just the ceiling alone was 100 meters tall. When standing in the middle, one would feel very small. The area of the dueling ground was very obvious. There were all sorts of equipment. However, there was only Lu Suifeng in the huge dueling ground, practicing his saber alone. It seemed very spacious. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiao Chen, he smiled faintly as a greeting. "Elder sister Ruyue, do you have any powerful saber techniques to impart to me?" When they arrived at the dueling grounds, Xiao Chen felt much more relaxed. He said with a smile on his face. Lu Ruyue mocked, "You want to learn a powerful saber technique with your foundation? Not to mention a heaven-ranked saber technique, even if it was an earth-ranked saber technique, you would not be able to learn its essence." This was not the first time Lu Ruyue said that Xiao Chen's foundation was weak. Xiao Chen was not convinced, even though he only learned saber techniques halfway through. However, ever since he started cultivating, he had been diligent and had never slacked off. Why did he always say that his foundation was weak? When Lu Ruyue saw Xiao Chen's expression, she was not convinced. She smiled, "If you are not convinced, then show me your most powerful saber technique. I guarantee that it will not exceed the strength of a martial grandmaster." Xiao Chen also wanted to test Lu Ruyue's strength. Back in the returning Cloud Hall, because of Lu Ruyue's sudden attack, he was not convinced in his heart. It could be said that he was waiting for this opportunity. Holding the lunar shadow saber horizontally in front of him, Xiao Chen smiled faintly. "In that case, watch carefully. I will only execute the fastest saber technique in the world once. I will definitely convince you." Ka Xie. A cold light flashed and the lunar shadow saber was instantly drawn from its scabbard. The instant the saber light was drawn, there was a clap of thunder behind Xiao Chen. The lunar shadow saber flickered with electricity. Drawing the saber, Xiao Chen's aura slowly rose. The saber light was extremely fast as it hacked at Lu Ruyue. At such a close distance and making the first move, Xiao Chen was absolutely confident that he could force Lu Ruyue back. As long as Lu Ruyue retreated, the rushing thunder saber technique would instantly unleash a chain of attacks. His aura would slowly rise to the peak. Even if he could not defeat her, she would not dare to underestimate him. Dang! A melodious metallic sound rang out. Xiao Chen did not even see how Lu Riyue drew her small saber. He discovered that the small saber in Lu Riyue's hand was even faster. Even though it was launched later, it arrived first and hacked at the lunar shadow saber. A huge force came from the saber. Xiao Chen's right hand, which was holding the saber, felt numb. He felt an urge to throw the lunar shadow saber away. The huge force was transmitted into Xiao Chen's body. He took 2 steps back before he could stand stably. Lu Riyue's swift saber strike was still in his mind. That was just an ordinary saber strike. It was not like drawing the saber, which was a martial technique. However, its speed was boundlessly fast. However, Xiao Chen was still unconvinced. He had not executed the rushing thunder saber technique yet. If he had the opportunity to execute it, Lu Riyue would definitely look at him in a different light. Xiao Chen shouted and took a ferocious step forward. Thunder roared again, and the gushing river in his dantian splashed up. It turned into a strand of vast essence and poured into the saber. Saber lights appeared everywhere as Xiao Chen executed drawing the saber again. However, the result did not change. Lu Riyue did not move from her original position. The small saber in her hand arrived first and easily broke the saber strike. Seeing Xiao Chen flying back, the corner of Lu Riyue's lips curled up. A faint smile appeared on her charming face. This is the fastest saber technique in the world? It is merely a so-so. After being ridiculed by a girl who was only a few years older than him, Xiao Chen became anxious. He executed drawing the saber again, but the result did not change. Xiao Chen moved back again and waved his hand. No way, you cannot block this move of mine. Otherwise, I will not be able to execute the more powerful moves. Lu Riyue burst out in laughter. A rare mischievous expression appeared on her face as she said, "As you wish. Let me experience the fastest saber technique in the world." A gleam flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. The moment Lu Riyue said that, he immediately executed drawing the saber. Lu Riyue flew back and Xiao Chen quickly executed the arc-light chop. Dang! Xiao Chen's hand was still in the stance of the arc-light chop. However, a cold light flashed and struck the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. This saber strike was fast and accurate. It struck the hilt of the saber. The space between Xiao Chen's fingers and the hilt of the saber did not injure Xiao Chen's fingers at all. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber. Her pretty face was solemn and she emitted a killing intent from her body. The fastest saber technique in the world. I will only use one saber strike. I will show you what is the true drawing the saber. Right after she spoke, Lu Riyue had already drawn the small saber in her hand. The instant the saber left the scabbard, a strong wind appeared out of nowhere. The saber light was extremely resplendent and dazzling. The dazzling saber light caused Xiao Chen's eyes to hurt. He instinctively closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the strong wind had already stopped. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber and stood there motionlessly, as if everything that happened earlier was just an illusion. However, Xiao Chen felt a chill on his neck. He extended his hand to touch it and felt a faint pain. It was unknown when a small wound had appeared on his neck. He could not help but be startled. If this wound was any deeper, he would have died. However, he did not react at all. The resplendent saber light lit up and in the blink of an eye, he was struck. Furthermore, in the instant she drew her saber, Lu Riyue had controlled her strength to the extreme. The so-called withdrawing and releasing as one wished, killing in the blink of an eye was a description of Lu Riyue's current state. Xiao Chen could not help but find it funny. In the past, he thought that he was already very fast when he drew his saber. Today, he was completely convinced. Lu Riyue smiled faintly. Little Yi Chen, do you still dare to doubt Master's strength? Xiao Chen smiled embarrassedly. I don't dare anymore. I will listen to elder sister Riyue in the future. Can you start teaching me now? A beautiful smile appeared on Lu Riyue's face. However, when Xiao Chen saw this, he trembled in fear. There are some training blocks over there. Tie 100 kilograms of metal to me and run 20 laps around the dueling ground. You are not allowed to use essence. If I discover you using essence, I will seal your acupoints and double the punishment. Xiao Chen looked at the huge dueling ground. If he ran one lap around it, it would be at least 1,000 meters. He could not help but feel a headache. This. Elder sister Ryue, isn't this a little too much? Lu Ryue smiled faintly. First, you tease master. Now, you contradict me. Add another 10 laps. Damn. Xiao Chen cursed in his heart. This Lu Ryue looks like a gentle big sister. I did not expect her to be so heartless when she becomes ruthless. When one was under someone else's roof, they had no choice but to lower their head. Xiao Chen helplessly walked to the side of the dueling ground and slowly tied the metal to his body. Then, he started to jog. Fortunately, his physical body was not weak, so he did not find it too difficult. Lu Suifeng looked at the jogging Xiao Chen with a smile on his face. He walked to Lu Ryue's side and said, Sis, this rushing thunder saber technique has been used by Xiao Chen to create thunder with every saber strike. It is very imposing and can be said to be pretty good. Why do you still want to deal a blow to him? Lu Ryue revealed a faint smile on her pretty face. This fellow is too arrogant. He should have a lot of combat experience. If you do not deal a blow to him, he will not be convinced by you. Furthermore, his foundations are indeed too weak. He needs to be trained properly. The potential of the rushing thunder saber technique can still be dug out. Lu Suifeng thought of something and said, That's right, sis, what do you think about the matter I told you yesterday? Listening to the sword and communicating with it? Lu Ryue revealed a contemplative expression. Since Yi Chen was recommended by Feng Feishue, and he saved Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng earlier, there should not be any problems with his character. If he wants to learn, there is no harm in teaching him. However, this listening to the sword and communicating with it is too vague. I will temporarily suppress him. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chen's back and said, I feel that Qingyun Peak might have a chance in this year's end-of-year competition. When Lu Ryue heard this, there was a trace of melancholy in her eyes. She said indifferently, All these years, I have always wanted to prove myself. However, there has never been a suitable successor for Qingyun Peak. I hope you will not disappoint me this time. Xiao Chen ran 30 laps for 4 hours before he finished. The first few laps were nothing much. After all, he had the strength of his physical body. Even if he did not use his essence, there was no pressure. However, after running for a while, Xiao Chen felt that something was wrong. There was definitely some special material under the dueling ground. He felt that his stamina was being depleted very quickly. Chapter 153. In the end, with every step he took, his bones felt like they were going to fall apart. He breathed like a bull, and every step he took was extremely arduous. There were a few times when Xiao Chen felt like lying down and not running anymore. However, when he looked at the beautiful figure in the middle of the field and saw the expression in her eyes, he could not help but feel proud. I must not collapse in front of her. That would be too embarrassing. When the final lap was over, Xiao Chen finally heaved a sigh of relief. He did his best to suppress the urge to collapse. He took a deep breath and sat down cross-legged, entering a state of cultivation. When a person was tired and their body reached its limits, entering a state of cultivation would allow them to bring out their full potential. In the past, Xiao Chen understood this principle. However, there was no one to supervise him, so he had never entered such a state. Now that he had this opportunity, there was naturally no reason for him to give it up. The purple thunder divine incantation slowly circulated in his body. When the essence circulated once in his body, it seeped into his skin, flesh, and bones. Xiao Chen felt a sense of relaxation that he had never felt before. His body felt extremely comfortable. The sweat on his body slowly evaporated into white smoke. Lu Ryue stood at the side and saw all this. She revealed an apologetic smile, and a look of reminiscence flashed in the depths of her eyes. It was like she was looking at herself from the past. After a while, Xiao Chen slowly stopped circulating the essence in his body. He opened his eyes and happened to meet Lu Rui's gaze. He smiled gently and stood up. Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Elder sister Rue, you can teach me now, right?" Lu Rue smiled gently, "Not bad, the saber technique you used earlier should be the rushing thunder saber technique. I practiced this saber technique when I was young. However, it did not suit my style, so I gave up on it." A look of doubt flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Lu Rue practiced the rushing thunder saber technique before? This was very strange. Didn't Feng Feishu say that the saber technique came from the Heavenly Qin school? Seeing the doubt in Xiao Chen's heart, Lu Rue explained, "Don't be too surprised. Aside from some inherited martial techniques, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has most of the saber techniques in their collection. I once gave up on this saber technique because of its style. Let me ask you now, what do you think the style of the rushing thunder saber technique is? Do you think it suits you? What is the style of the rushing thunder saber technique?" Xiao Chen had never considered this question before. Even more so, he did not consider whether this saber technique was suitable for him. However, after practicing the rushing thunder saber technique for so long, Xiao Chen had some understanding of the style of the rushing thunder saber technique. After thinking for a while, it was not difficult for him to answer, "Fierce and fast, imposing and forceful. It is like a gushing river. After it is unleashed, it will flow unceasingly, advancing forward with an indomitable will." Lu Rue nodded and said, "It looks like your understanding is pretty good. However, the words you used earlier were to describe the characteristics of the rushing thunder saber technique and not its style. Style is the last sentence. Move forward with indomitable will and never retreat. Taking a step back is the difference between life and death. Putting yourself on the edge of death to fight and forcing yourself into a dead end. Do you think you are suited for this style?" Hearing this, Xiao Chen felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck him. It was as if he had been enlightened. Some of the problems that he had been unable to figure out in the past suddenly became clear. In the past, he always felt that his understanding of the rushing thunder saber technique was lacking something. Today, he finally understood what he was lacking. What he was lacking was that kind of decisiveness. That kind of overwhelming decisiveness, to not retreat even in the face of death. However, am I really suited for this style? Xiao Chen could not help but ponder this question. After a while, a resolute look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He thought of the past and said seriously, "I understand now. I am suited for this style. Even though I am still lacking now, I will not give up on it in the future." Lu Rue smiled faintly, "I feel that you are not suited for it. When we exchanged moves earlier, you actually wanted me to let you have one move first. You wanted to take advantage of the situation. That is definitely not the style of the rushing thunder saber technique." Xiao Chen asked doubtfully, "However, you have already broken my saber technique. How can I not retreat? That is impossible. If I were to face an opponent of equal strength or a similar cultivation realm, I would definitely not retreat. You are really stubborn. The strength I used earlier definitely did not exceed that of a martial grandmaster. If you don't believe me, you can try again." Lu Rue's pretty face was filled with smiles. She had an eager look on her face. When Xiao Chen thought of the situation earlier, he smiled embarrassedly, "I think it's better not, I'll just believe you." Lu Rue felt it was a pity as she said, "Never mind, I will not tease you anymore. It is too early to tell you all this. It is normal that you do not understand. You should practice the 8 basic saber techniques first." "Let me see." Xiao Chen revealed an embarrassed expression, "I don't think I have learned the basic saber techniques before. When I was young, my family only required me to learn the basic palm techniques and fist techniques. The basics of the saber and the sword were optional. At that time, I did not think of practicing the saber, so I did not practice them." When he was young, Xiao Chen was unable to condense his martial spirit. He focused all his attention on it and did not have the time to practice the basic saber techniques. Later on, after Xiao Chen successfully condensed his martial spirit, he did not pay attention to the basic saber techniques because he learned too many things. Although he did not dare to slack off when he cultivated, he did not practice the basic saber techniques. Lu Rue felt a headache coming on. Sui Feng, come and die. Lu Sui Feng, who was practicing the saber at the side, stopped what he was doing. He quickly walked over and asked, "Sis, what's the matter?" "I was defeated by this fellow. Come and teach him the 8 basic saber techniques. I will give you 1 day. I will check on him tomorrow." Lu Rue rubbed her head, feeling a headache coming on. "I will take my leave first. I will check on him tomorrow." "That's right, don't remove the metal block in his hand." After Lu Rue spoke, she left the place. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chen and asked in disbelief, "Yi Chen, have you really not practiced the basic saber techniques before?" Xiao Chen countered with a question, "Is that important?" "I really have not practiced it before." Lu Suifeng smiled bitterly, "I really have to hand it to you. Fortunately, you did not enter from the outer sect. The basic saber techniques are the foundation of all saber techniques. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion has a rule long ago. If one has not practiced the basic saber techniques to the small perfection, one cannot learn any martial techniques. Thus, people like us, as well as those cultivators who want to enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, have to practice the basic saber techniques to the small perfection at the very least. Most of them would practice it to the medial perfection. Only a few people would persevere and practice it to the great perfection, like my sister." Xiao Chen did not expect the basic saber techniques to be so important. He could not help but ask, "In that case, what realm have you practiced the basic saber techniques to?" Lu Suifeng smiled helplessly, "I do not have the perseverance. I just reached the small perfection, so I stopped practicing it. Let's not talk about this anymore. It is not too late for you to practice it now." Xiao Chen nodded. As he spoke, he was about to remove the piece of metal in his hand. When Lu Suifeng saw this, he quickly stopped him. Xiao Chen could not help but say, "Don't tell me you are really making things difficult for this brother." Lu Suifeng had a serious expression as he said, "I am really not making things difficult for you. You are able to practice the rushing thunder saber technique to the point where it sounds like thunder. This proves that you have put in a lot of effort. Even in the history of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, not many people have been able to do this. My sister thinks very highly of you. Otherwise, she would not have given you pointers on some of the styles of the rushing thunder saber technique. The rushing thunder saber technique was created by a saber emperor. Although it is only a superior grade profound ranked martial technique, its potential is limitless. If you really want to improve further, you have to practice the basic saber techniques to the great perfection. If you want to learn it in a short period of time, aside from putting in a lot of effort, there is no shortcut." When Xiao Chen heard this, he could only stop what he was doing. Lu Suifeng started to explain and demonstrate the basic saber techniques. The basic saber techniques only had 8 moves: sweep, hack, push, scrape, sweep, chop, and pierce. They were also known as the 8 basic saber techniques. Since it was a basic saber technique, it was naturally easy to understand. Xiao Chen only needed to look at it once to understand it. After that, he started to practice by himself. Because he had 100 kilograms of metal strapped to his body, every movement was very difficult. Lu Suifeng shook his head continuously at the side, "Do not move your feet carelessly. You have to raise your arms higher. Do not stop when you are sheathing your saber." When Xiao Chen started to practice, he discovered that there were a lot of rules and regulations. There were clearly 8 simple movements, but he kept making mistakes. The morning slowly went by like this. During this period, Lu Suifeng continuously gave pointers. Occasionally, he would demonstrate it himself. He did not show any signs of impatience, causing Xiao Chen to feel very touched. "It is time to eat." Elder brother Suifeng and elder brother Yi Chen. Xiao Meng's sweet voice came from the dueling grounds. Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng were carrying food in their hands as they slowly walked over. When Lu Suifeng saw this, he smiled faintly, "Let's stop here for the morning. Don't listen to my sis. Back then, I spent 2 years practicing the basic saber techniques to the small perfection. It is impossible to grasp it in one day. Xiaochen wiped the sweat off his forehead and nodded to indicate that he understood. The 8 moves of the saber were the foundation of all saber techniques in the world. As the saying goes, no matter how it changed, it would not deviate from the original. Since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion stipulated that one had to learn it to the small perfection, there would naturally be a reason for it. Xiao Chen was able to understand this point. Xiao Meng personally made lunch. First, she took out 2 bowls of porridge and placed them in front of Xiao Chen and Lu Suifeng. Afraid that Xiao Chen would not understand, she said, "This is the rule set by elder sister Ruyue. After a large amount of exercise, you have to drink a bowl of porridge first. It will nourish your stomach before you can eat the main course." When Xiao Chen heard this, he smiled faintly. He thought to himself, this girl is quite meticulous. According to the diet of earth, there is such a saying. Pu Tong. Just at this moment, Bai suddenly leaped out of the spirit blood jade on Xiao Chen's chest. After it came out, it looked at Xiao Meng with its large, watery eyes. "What a cute little fox," Xiao Meng revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. Lu Suifeng glanced at the red jade pendant on Xiao Chen's chest and revealed a strange expression. He said, "Is this the spirit blood jade?" Xiao Chen nodded. He had not let the little fellow out for the past few days. Earlier, when Bai smelled the food, it strongly requested to come out. After Xiao Chen interacted with the people here, he found them to be kind-hearted. So Xiao Chen did not stop it. "Is there any more porridge?" "This little fellow is hungry," Xiao Chen said as he looked at Xiao Meng. Xiao Meng smiled and nodded. She took out a small bowl and filled it with porridge before handing it to Bai. Bai revealed a cute smile on its face. It rubbed its head happily against Xiao Meng, causing her to laugh gently. Chapter 154. After they finished their porridge and had lunch, Lu Suifeng pulled Xiao Chen to the side. "If I am not wrong, your little spirit fox should have the bloodline of a 6-tailed spirit fox." Xiao Chen nodded. "Is there a problem?" Lu Suifeng said seriously, "If there is no need, do not bring this little fellow out of Qingyun Peak. As the saying goes, do not reveal your wealth. Yi Chen, you should understand this." Xiao Chen felt it was strange. Could it be that there are no rules in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Lu Suifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Naturally, this Qingyun Peak is a pure land. However, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is filled with all sorts of people. It is not the pure land that you think it is. The strong preys on the weak. This happens every day." Xiao Chen frowned slightly and could not help but think about Lu Chen and the other outer disciples. If the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is filled with such people, then Lu Suifeng's words are really thought-provoking. After lunch, Bai left the dueling grounds with Xiao Meng without any conscience. Xiao Chen knew it did not like to stay in the spirit blood jade. Since there was no danger in Qingyun Peak, he did not bother with it. "Yi Chen, I have something to do in the afternoon. I cannot accompany you." "Sorry." Lu Suifeng said apologetically to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen nodded. Lu Suifeng did not impatiently guide him for the entire morning. He was already very grateful. There was no need to force him to continue guiding him in the afternoon. Furthermore, the 8 basic movements of the saber did not require any guidance. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiao Chen nod, he smiled and said, "You are a good friend. I will take my leave first. Remember not to remove the metal bars on your body. If my sister sees it, I will be in trouble." Seeing Lu Suifeng leave, Xiao Chen smiled faintly. He was not in a rush to practice the basic saber techniques. He warmed up his body and waited for the food in his body to be completely digested. Xiao Chen started to run along the dueling grounds. He relied on the strength of his physical body to slowly run. After jogging in the morning, Xiao Chen had already felt the benefits of cultivating after his body reached its limit. The effect was several times better than usual. After a while, Xiao Chen slowly ran 5 or 6 laps. This time, he could clearly feel that the rocks on the ground seemed to have a mysterious suction force. With every step he took, he would expend a lot of energy. This feeling was a little familiar. After thinking for a long time, Xiaochen finally remembered where he had encountered this feeling before. Back in the sage remnant in Savage Forest, Xiaochen had exhausted a lot of essence with every step he took toward the stone platform that towered into the sky. There was a huge difference between the two. One absorbed physical strength, while the other absorbed vitality. However, they both achieved the same result through different means. With every step he took, he would immediately consume a bit of energy. It was just that he did not know if the two were related. Sweat slowly covered his forehead. Xiaochen wiped it away. He could feel his stamina being depleted. Gritting his teeth, Xiaochen continued to run forward. Round after round, Xiaochen ran tirelessly step by step. Relying on his tenacious willpower, he endured the boundless loneliness. In the vast dueling grounds, he ran forward courageously. Run, run, run. I have not reached my limit yet. I have to continue persevering. After running 30 laps, Xiaochen felt slightly dizzy. However, he knew that this was not his limit. Just like that, Xiaochen ran 50 laps before he slowly stopped. He resisted the urge to lie down immediately. He slowly sat down cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. He slowly circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Essence slowly flowed through the various meridians in his body. It was unknown when, but Lu Riyue was already standing there quietly, watching Xiaochen silently. When she saw Xiaochen's desperate appearance, it was like she saw her younger self in his eyes. Because the older generation had left, the originally bustling dueling grounds became very quiet. However, she still dragged her young body and ran continuously, step by step, just like Xiaochen was doing today. Enduring the boundless loneliness and relying on his tenacious willpower, he finally made it to this stage step by step. The essence passed through the meridians and entered Xiaochen's flesh and bones. That numbing feeling came again. The sweat on his body evaporated continuously, giving off white smoke. The cells in his bones, skin, and flesh started to undergo this intense activity. Under this extreme state, his physical body was continuously tempered by the essence, becoming stronger. After a while, Xiaochen opened his eyes and got up to stretch himself. A series of crackling sounds came from all the bones in his body. Every crisp sound made him feel energized. Elder Sister Riyue, why are you here? Xiaochen heard footsteps and turned his head to take a look. He discovered Lu Riyue, who was still wearing her tight-fitting long robes, slowly walking towards him. Lu Riyue smiled faintly, revealing a gentle smile. She perfectly displayed the charm of a mature woman, that Brett Suifeng always goes to Jade Maiden Peak in the afternoon. I was worried, so I came to take a look. You should have learned the 8 basic movements of the saber, right? Show me now. Xiaochen nodded and drew the lunar shadow saber with a huang-dang sound. He focused and calmed himself down. Xiaochen took a step forward with his right foot, and the saber created a strong wind as it swept through the air. This was the first move of the basic saber technique, sweep. The saber paused in the air for a moment. Xiaochen stepped forward with his left foot and brought his legs together. He shouted and chopped down with the saber. This was the second move, chop. The instant the saber descended, when it reached the bottom, Xiaochen did not take a step back. Instead, he pulled the saber up. This was the third move of the basic saber technique, draw chop, sweep, hold, chop, and pierce. Xiaochen executed the remaining 5 moves together with his footwork without stopping. Although it was somewhat shaky, he managed to do it in one breath. Lu Riyue nodded gently at the side. She smiled and said, "Not bad. At least your basic movements and footwork are correct. However, you still lack some momentum and consistency. However, you just have to take it slow. You can use the 8 basic movements of the saber to exchange moves with me. I will slowly guide you, and you will understand in the future." This basic saber technique was refined by our ancestors after tens of thousands of years. It is very important to a bladesman. When Xiao Qin heard that Lu Riyue wanted to use the basic saber technique to exchange moves with him, he was overwhelmed by the favor. A medial grade martial saint was willing to exchange moves with him and teach him the basic saber technique step by step. No one had ever received such treatment before. Elder sister Riyue, this is not appropriate. It is just a basic saber technique. I can practice it myself. There is no need to waste your time, Xiao Qin rejected. An impatient expression flashed on Lu Riyue's pretty face. She said, "Stop wasting time. As a man, can you be more direct? Being so wishy-washy is even more annoying than a woman." Xiao Qin did not dare to disobey. He sheathed his saber and stood opposite of Lu Riyue. Only then did Lu Riyue reveal a smile. "That's more like it. I will make the first move." Right after Lu Riyue spoke, a cold light flashed. The small saber in Lu Riyue's hand moved forward and pierced toward Xiao Qin's chest. This was the basic saber technique's pierce formula. It was a simple stab, but Lu Riyue's aura was like a rainbow. No one dared to underestimate it. Xiao Qin remembered their agreement. He could only use the 8 basic saber techniques to break this move. He quickly executed the pull formula and swung his saber upwards, blocking Lu Riyue's move. This was not a true battle, they were just exchanging moves. Thus, there was no killing intent. During the exchange, Lu Riyue would occasionally give Xiao Qin pointers, telling him of his mistakes. Then, she would make her own move and demonstrate the correct saber technique to him. Her expression was extremely serious. Xiao Qin's talent was high in the first place. After exchanging moves, he improved very quickly. Slowly, he found the feeling. The days of Qingyun Peak passed peacefully like this. Lu Riyue insisted on coming every afternoon to exchange moves with Xiao Qin. Aside from practicing the basic saber techniques, Xiao Qin would take time out during the day to run a few laps around the dueling grounds. Every day, he would push his body to its limits. Then, he would immediately start cultivating, tempering his body at his limits. Now, Xiao Qin could easily run 100 laps around the dueling grounds. In the middle of the night, Xiao Qin would lie on his bed and read the flowing cloud scripture that Lu Qin gave him. He would sort out the meridians in his body that were in a mess due to cultivating the battle sage origins. This was one of the rare peaceful days he had since he left Mo City. He could systematically sort out the martial techniques and knowledge that he had learned. Normally, if he had any questions regarding martial techniques, he could ask Lu Riyue for guidance. She would always give him a satisfactory answer. Although his cultivation realm did not increase by much in the past few days, his combat prowess had reached an unprecedented peak. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed just like that. Xiao Qin's basic saber techniques had made great progress. He had already reached the peak of small perfection. After practicing the basic saber techniques to this level, Xiao Qin could clearly feel that when he used the rushing thunder saber technique again, its might was much stronger than before. Furthermore, he was able to integrate it better. He was just one step away from the fusion that he had not completed in the past, and he would be able to reach a perfect state. In the end, there were still some unfortunate matters. Even when he tried to ask her about learning listening to the sword and communicating with it, he was rejected by Lu Riyue. She said that it was not the right time yet. Since he had a favor to ask, Xiao Qin could not be too forceful. The most important thing was that Lu Riyue had treated him very well in the past 2 months. On this particular day, Xiao Qin woke up very early as usual, preparing to rush to the dueling grounds. The instant he opened the door, he discovered Lu Riyue, Xiao Yang, and Xiao Meng standing outside with smiles on their faces. Xiao Qin asked with some doubts, "What day is it today? Don't we have to go to the dueling grounds? Why are you all here?" Lu Suifeng giggled, "You are right. There is no need to go to the dueling grounds today. I was afraid that you would not be able to meet anyone and miss us. So I came to tell you this news in advance." Lu Riyue smiled warmly and continued the topic. "Today is the day the Supreme Elder of the Divine Saber Camp is giving a lecture at the Heaven Ascending platform. That is a true Supreme Elder, He is a martial monarch. So I decided to go with all of us. A martial monarch, supreme elder. A fervent light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. His calm heart actually started to fluctuate. However, this was not surprising. Martial monarchs were already the strongest cultivators in the great Qin nation. Chapter 155. There were 10 known martial monarchs, each of them guarding an area. It was impossible for an ordinary person to listen to his lecture. Xiao Chen had not expected a martial monarch to personally lecture everyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. Although it was not a one-on-one lecture, listening to his words or watching from afar might be of great help to his cultivation in the future. Lu Riyue whistled softly and a green bird slowly flew in front of the group. Lu Riyue took the lead and leaped onto it. After that, she said to Xiao Chen, "Yi Chen, come on. Come with me." Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "Sis, can you not be so biased? No matter what, I am still your biological younger brother. Don't give me that. If you had half of Yi Chen's willpower, you would not go to Jade Maiden Peak and fool around with those female disciples. Naturally, I would not let you walk to the heaven ascending platform," Lu Riyue lectured him from the green bird. When Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng heard this, they could not help but laugh gently. Under Lu Suifeng's envious gaze, Xiao Chen sat on the green bird and followed Lu Riyue to the horizon. High up in the sky, clouds lingered. Xiao Chen sat behind Lu Riyue, riding the green bird as they traveled through the clouds. Occasionally, flying beasts flew by. The people on them were cultivators heading to the heaven ascending platform. The green bird was only so big. It was unavoidable for Xiao Chen to bump into Lu Riyue from time to time, causing him to feel restless. A gentle breeze blew, and Lu Riyue's hair occasionally hit Xiao Chen's face. The unique fragrance of a girl flowed into his nose from her hair. As a novice in certain areas, Xiao Chen did his best to control his body's normal reactions. This was something that made one's heart beat faster and was incomparably exciting. However, one had to do their best to control it. This made Xiao Chen feel very uncomfortable. The fire in his heart grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, a magnificent ship flew over from behind the two of them. The hull of the ship was covered with all sorts of golden decorations, making it look extremely majestic. A black flag fluttered on the hull of the ship. The word "Song" was written on the flag in a flamboyant style. This was a warship belonging to the Lingyun Mountain Range's Biyun Peak. On the bow of the ship, the youngest son of the Biyun Peak's peak master, Song Qianhe, was dressed in luxurious clothes. He looked very handsome, and his hands were placed on the railing. His clothes fluttered in the wind, giving him an indescribable elegance. There were also a few men and women on the deck. They were all disciples of Biyun Peak. They were like stars surrounding the moon, standing behind Song Qianhe, making him look even more noble. "Senior Sister Lu, the heaven ascending platform is still some distance away. Why don't you board my ship?" that youth said loudly as he looked at Lu Riyue's figure. Xiao Chen turned his head back to take a look. He felt that the scene in front of him was very familiar. After a while, he thought about it. This was exactly the same situation as the rich second generation who drove Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, and wore branded clothes. He could not help but smile to himself. Tall, rich, and handsome people exist everywhere. Lu Riyue acted like she did not hear him. She did not even turn her head back as she continued to control the green bird to fly forward. That youth could not help but feel anxious. He thought that Lu Riyue did not hear him, so he raised his voice and shouted again. However, Lu Riyue was even more direct this time. She controlled the green bird to double its speed, leaving this person in the dust. When Song Qianhe saw the situation, he smacked the railing violently. He looked at Xiao Chen, who was behind Lu Riyue, and revealed a murderous intent in his eyes. He said in a deep voice, "Who is that brat behind Lu Riyue? Why have I not seen him before?" The person beside him replied, "That is the disciple that Lu Yueru recently accepted. His name seems to be Yi Chen. He is 16 years old and is already an inferior grade martial grand master. The person who replied was called Zhang Jin. He had the nickname of Know-It-All in Bian Peak. His personal strength was not much, but he loved to listen to gossip. Thus, he was very clear about these matters. Song Qianhe frowned slightly. He was somewhat astonished in his heart. Lu Ruyue actually accepted a disciple. Is she still not going to give up? This brat is actually so close to Lu Ruyue. She even let him ride the green bird with her. He had been eyeing this position for a long time. However, Lu Ruyue did not care about him at all. She did not care about him at all. When she saw Xiao Chen sitting on his seat, she wanted to kick him down immediately. Does this brat have any background? How did he enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Song Qianhe continued to ask. Zhang Jin quickly said, he used Feng Feishue's recommendation letter to enter Qingyan Peak. However, this person does not seem to have any background. If he did, he would not have entered Qingyan Peak. A gleam flashed in Song Qianhe's eyes. He smiled coldly. It is easy to deal with him if he does not have any background. Lu Ruyue, I will make you give up. No matter what, Qingyan Peak will become history. On the green bird, Xiao Chen felt it was strange. He asked, Elder Sister Ruyue, that person invited you to board. Why did you ignore him? A cold light flashed on Lu Ruyue's face. She said in a cold voice, don't mention that person. He is just scum, the same as his father. If I board his ship, I am afraid I will not be able to resist killing him. Xiao Chen quickly shut his mouth. He knew he asked something he should not have asked. Suddenly, a melodious bird cry came from above. Lu Chen was also riding a green bird, slowly descending from above. If one looked carefully, they would discover that the blue dragon he was riding was exactly the same as Lu Ruyue's green bird, be it its size or color. Senior Sister Ruyue, are you going to the heaven ascending platform? How about we make a bet to see who gets there first? The loser will give the other party 10 inferior grade spirit stones. Lu Chen smiled faintly. Lu Ruyue rolled her eyes at him and said unhappily, cut the crap. Can't you see that I am carrying another person? Lu Chen smiled gently and did not mind. He said, never mind, let's get down to business. A few days ago, I went to Saber Prison to see Ling Tianyue. He specifically said that he wanted to see your disciple. Xiao Chen was startled. His expression was somewhat unnatural. Back then, he had saved Ling Liusu from Ling Tianyue's hands. After he was locked up, he did not change his appearance. Lu Ruyue smiled coldly. Ling Tianyue, who does he think he is? Wait until he comes out. Is my disciple someone he can meet whenever he wants? I have conveyed the message. Whether you want to go or not will depend on little brother Yi Chen. I will take my leave first. After Lu Chen spoke, he rode on the green bird and soared into the sky, disappearing from the two of them. Xiao Chen was very surprised at Lu Ruyue's reply. He did not expect her to be so straightforward. Especially the last sentence, it made Xiao Chen feel touched. The green bird rode on the two of them for a while. Soon, a towering mountain peak appeared in front of them. The mountain peak was like the heaven viewing platform. It looked like it had been chopped in half by someone, revealing a huge platform. That was the heaven ascending platform. The heaven ascending platform was different from the heaven viewing platform. It was completely bare. There were no buildings at all. There was only a tall stone platform. On the empty ground below the stone platform, there was a sparse crowd of people who had arrived earlier. As they were about to arrive, Xiao Chen could not help but ask, Elder Sister Ruyue, don't you want to know why Ling Tianyue wants me to meet him? Lu Ruyue smiled gently, I don't care what your identity was in the past. You just have to remember that you are my disciple now. Ling Tianyue made a huge mistake and is locked up in Saber Prison. He will never be able to come out in this lifetime. If he wants to meet you, it is definitely not a good thing. Curiosity kills the cat. Don't let me know that you are secretly going to meet him. As the two of them spoke, Lu Ruyue had already controlled the green bird and slowly landed on the empty ground of the heaven-ascending platform. Lu Ruyue took the lead and jumped down. Then, she brought Xiao Chen to a secluded corner to rest. Most of the people on the platform were like Xiao Chen, riding on flying spirit beasts or warships. There were even more people below the mountain peak, rushing over quickly. At this moment, a sparkling and translucent jade ship slowly flew over from the horizon. There was the sound of ceremonial music coming from the jade ship. There were faint clouds surrounding it. It was like the legendary immortal ship. The moment the ship appeared, it immediately attracted the attention of everyone on the platform, and they all looked up. They looked up and saw all sorts of girls standing on the bow of the ship. They were all as beautiful as flowers and had graceful figures. Melodious laughter resounded continuously. The Jade Maiden Peak's ship is here. I heard that the top beauty of Jade Maiden Peak, Chu Xinyan, will be coming as well. Is that true? This Chu Xinyan usually stays in Jade Maiden Peak. Although she is famous, I have never had the chance to see her in person. I wonder if she is as beautiful as the rumors say. She is one of the 3 golden flowers of our heavenly saber pavilion. Aside from Lu Ruyue and Ling Liusu, there is no other girl in Heavenly Saber Pavilion who can compare to her. Xiao Chen's ears were very sharp, he heard everything that these people said. He looked at Lu Ruyue's charming face, which was filled with the charm of a mature woman. Jade Maiden Peak's Chu Xinyan could not help but look forward to this girl who was as famous as her. The jade ship slowly descended. One by one, beautiful women slowly walked down from the bow of the ship. In the Lingyan mountain range that was filled with spiritual qi, these women were all extremely beautiful. At first glance, they were extremely pleasing to the eyes. After a while, a girl dressed in white walked down under everyone's gazes of anticipation. Her eyes were intelligent, they were as deep as the stars. Her hands were soft, her skin was smooth, her collar was smooth, her teeth were sharp, and her eyebrows were like that of a moth. There was a faint smile on her delicate face. With just one glance, Xiao Chen felt like his soul was being hooked away. Is she smiling at me? All the men on the platform had the same question as Xiao Chen, they felt their heartbeats speed up. Is Chu Xinyan pretty? Suddenly, Lu Ruyue's smiling question came from the side. Xiao Chen answered subconsciously, pretty. Is she as pretty as me? Pretty much. Pretty much your head. Lu Ruyue ruthlessly smacked Xiao Chen's head. This little vixen has already hooked away Suifeng's soul. If you get hooked away by her again, I will throw you off Qingyun Peak. Xiao Chen recovered his wits and rubbed his slightly swollen head. He cried out in pain and sighed in his heart, what an undeserved calamity. It looks like no matter where I am, I should not talk about another girl in front of a beauty. This was especially so when that girl was even more beautiful than her. All the more reason not to talk about it. Her current state was the best proof. Chapter 156. Lu Ruyue. Just as Xiao Chen was letting his imagination run wild, a delicate voice entered his ears. He looked towards the figure and was startled. The person who came was Ling Liusu. He subconsciously hid behind Lu Ruyue. Lu Ruyue also saw Ling Liusu. She frowned slightly and a cold expression filled her face. When she saw Ling Liusu in a red dress walking over quickly, she smiled coldly, I thought you were killed by Ling Tianyue. I did not expect you to appear in front of me alive and kicking. Sorry to disappoint you. Not only am I not dead, I even advanced to Martial Saint, Ling Liusu retorted, not backing down at all. What a strong smell of gunpowder. Could it be that all the pretty girls in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion are not on good terms with Lu Ruyue? Xiao Chen thought to himself, feeling a headache coming on. Furthermore, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Indeed, Ling Liusu saw Xiao Chen hiding behind Lu Ruyue. He looked familiar and she said, who is the one hiding behind you? Is he your new disciple? Don't tell me you are too ashamed to face others. When Lu Ruyue heard this, she looked at Xiao Chen with a strange expression. She casually pushed him to the front and said, what is there to be ashamed of? What are you afraid of? Xiao Chen wanted to cry, but no tears came out. What he was afraid of had happened. He originally thought that he did not have to see Ling Tianyue and everything would be fine. He did not expect to meet Ling Liusu, who he did not want to meet even more than Ling Tianyue. Turn around and let me see. Ling Liusu found him more and more familiar as she stared at Xiao Chen. Damn it, I'm throwing caution to the wind. Xiao Chen turned around and smiled faintly. Miss Leng, we meet again. It's you. Ling Liusu paused for a while and said simply. Just when Xiao Chen thought he could breathe a sigh of relief, damn pervert, you dare to appear in front of me again? I'll chop you to death. Ling Liusu drew her saber with a huang-dang sound and quickly chopped at Xiao Chen. The saber lit up with a resplendent light and a saber chi left the saber. Xiao Chen was startled and quickly dodged. The saber chi flew towards Lu Ruyue, who was behind him. Lu Ruyue snorted coldly and drew the small saber in her hand. With a schwa sound, she chopped the saber chi into nothing. When Ling Liusu saw Xiao Chen dodge, the saber in her hand buzzed, reverberating in the air. Xiao Chen felt like the lunar shadow saber was going to run away by itself. Buzz! The small saber in Lu Ruyue's hand started to buzz continuously. She flew forward and blocked in front of Xiao Chen, blocking Ling Liusu's attack. Bang! When the two sabers clashed, there was a clanging sound. Lu Ruyue did not move at all, but Ling Liusu took 3 steps back before she slowly neutralized the force from the saber. The swords in their hands buzzed continuously. Lu Ruyue and Ling Liusu executed listening to the sword and communicating with it at the same time. Instantly, the shockwaves spread out in all directions. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, everyone's weapons started to tremble. The sabers of some of the weaker cultivators flew out and stabbed into the ground in front of Lu Ruyue and Ling Liusu. Very quickly, hundreds of sabers appeared on the ground. The surrounding cultivators all surrounded them. However, the identities of the two people fighting were not simple. For a moment, no one dared to stop them. Lu Ruyue, are you going to stop me from killing this perverted thief? Ling Liusu said aggressively as she looked at Lu Ruyue. Lu Ruyue smiled coldly and did not give in. You keep saying that my disciple is a perverted thief. Do you think I will believe you just because you say so? I can even say that you are a perverted thief. Since you say that, then tell me, what did he do to you? Lu Ruyue's words were very ruthless. Ling Liusu stammered for a long time. Her face turned red. However, how could she say such an embarrassing thing in front of everyone? Ling Liusu stomped her foot and said angrily, don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I will kill you. After she spoke, she glared at Xiao Chen before quickly leaving the place. The commotion died down just like that. When the surrounding people saw that there was no more commotion to watch, they picked up their weapons and left. Before they left, they all gave Xiao Chen a meaningful look. Their meaning was clear. How powerful! He even dares to molest the daughter of the previous pavilion master. Xiao Chen would not be able to defend himself. Even if he wanted to explain himself, he would not be able to do so. It looked like the reputation of this perverted thief was going to spread throughout the heavenly saber pavilion. Lu Ruyue sheathed her saber and circled around Xiao Chen a few times. She sized him up with a faint smile on her face, making it hard for people to understand her intentions. Xiao Chen felt uncomfortable from being stared at like that. He explained, elder sister Ruyue, actually, this is all a misunderstanding. I really did not do anything. Lu Ruyue smiled gently, like a flower blooming. It was very beautiful. She patted Xiao Chen's shoulder and said, there is no need to explain. Little Yi Chen, I understand. I really could not tell that a refined person like you had such capabilities. Xiao Chen was very depressed. He finally understood the difficulties that Fatso faced back then. Just as he was about to explain, another warship flew over from the horizon. This was a warship made entirely of black mysterious iron. A flag with the word Zhong on it was fluttering on the bow of the ship. A man dressed in black stood at the bow of the warship. His gaze was like lightning as he scanned the platform. The people that he looked at felt like their hearts were pierced by a sharp sword. It was extremely unbearable. Qianduan Peak's Zhong Xian is here. There is going to be a good show to watch. I wonder what expression he would have if he knew what happened earlier. He has been chasing after Ling Liusu for many years. He has not even touched her hand yet. This is going to be interesting. The people below discussed. There were many gazes directed at Xiao Chen. Their expressions were filled with schadenfreude. This made Xiao Chen feel extremely uncomfortable. The black warship shook for a while and stopped. Zhong Xian led the Qianduan Peak disciples to a corner. There were people in the crowd that Zhong Xian was familiar with. They quickly went over and told him what happened earlier. Zhong Xian stopped and his face immediately turned gloomy. He took heavy steps and led the Qianduan Peak disciples towards Xiao Chen. He was filled with killing intent. Yi Chen, right? Zhong Xian stopped about 3 meters away from Xiao Chen. He released all his aura and locked onto Xiao Chen with killing intent. He enunciated every word clearly. He looked at Xiao Chen, who was standing behind Lu Ruyue, and said indifferently, "Do you dare to take a step forward?" His words were filled with killing intent. He did not hide it at all. As long as Xiao Chen took a step forward, a sharp attack would immediately be launched at him. This is undisguised mockery. We have not even started yet, and you already want to kill me. Xiao Chen was enraged. A strand of killing intent slowly appeared in his heart. His right hand quickly grasped the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. Do you dare to say that again? Just as Xiao Chen was about to make a move, Lu Ruyue suddenly spoke. There was a cold look on her pretty face. It was as cold as ice. Zhong Xian thought about Lu Ruyue's deeds and could not help but curse in his heart. I was too rash today. With my strength as a superior grade martial saint, I am not strong enough in front of Lu Ruyue. However, at this moment, if he retreated miserably in front of everyone, he would become a laughing stock. Furthermore, there were many Qianduan Peak disciples behind him. If they fought, he might not be a match for Lu Ruyue. Thinking of this, Zhong Xian could not help but smile coldly. Why not? Dang! A cold light appeared and a saber light flickered. Just as Zhong Xian spoke, the saber was already right in front of him. A few strands of hair on his forehead were all cut off and slowly fell to the ground. Zhong Xian was greatly startled. He pushed off the ground and retreated rapidly. However, Lu Ruyue was faster than him. Lu Ruyue swung her saber downwards and a crack immediately appeared on the battle armor on his chest. Blood spurted out from the crack. The surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air. If not for the battle armor, Zhong Xian might have been chopped in half. A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Lu Ruyue's move was the chop character formula of the basic saber techniques. He did not expect it to be able to display such might in her hands. Blood spurted out from his chest. It was incomparably painful. Zhong Xian was infuriated. He stretched his right hand to his waist, wanting to draw his saber. However, when he drew his saber halfway, it was blocked by Lu Ruyue's left hand. Lu Ruyue's right leg carried the sound of the wind as she kicked at Zhong Xian's chest with lightning speed. There was a loud bang as her foot landed on his chest. Lu Ruyue controlled the force of this kick very well. Zhong Xian did not get sent flying. Instead, he fell to the ground. There were ka-ca sounds coming from his back. It was unknown how many of his bones were broken. Zhong Xian struggled to stand up. Lu Ruyue mercilessly continued to stomp on his chest. Zhong Xian groaned in pain and a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth as he lay back down. Although all this seemed to have happened over a long period of time, it actually happened within a few breaths. The two of them had only exchanged one move. The Qianduan Peak disciples did not even have the time to react. By the time they reacted, Zhong Xian was already severely injured by Lu Ruyue. He was lying on the ground, unable to move. Zhong Xian's position in Qianduan Peak was no lower than the grandson of the first elder, the Peak Master. He was also a true inheritor of Qianduan Peak. If anything happened to him in front of everyone, no one would have a good time. The Qianduan Peak disciples drew their sabers and rushed at Lu Ruyue. Lu Ruyue smiled coldly and her aura soared. The surrounding people could not help but tremble. This is the aura of a superior-grade martial saint. She actually reached the strength of a superior-grade martial saint. This is too horrifying. No wonder she only used one move to defeat Zhong Xian. The difference in strength is too great. Under this horrifying aura, the Qianduan Peak disciples all stopped in their tracks. They looked at Lu Ruyue in horror, not daring to move even half a step. Zhong Xian, who was on the ground, was also shocked. He could not believe it. How can this be? 2 months ago, you were only a medial-grade martial saint. How did you improve so quickly? After a cultivator became a martial saint, every time they advanced by a grade, there would be a world of difference in their strength. It was extremely difficult to advance further. Some people with poor talent might not even be able to take a step forward even after 10 years. Lu Ruyue reached superior grade martial saint at the age of 24. There were probably not many people with such talent in the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lu Ruyue withdrew her foot and looked at Zhong Xian on the ground. She said coldly, "Scram. Don't put on such airs in front of me in the future. Otherwise, even if I kill you, your father would not dare to say anything." Chapter 157. The disciples of Qianduan Peak quickly helped Zhong Xian up and applied medicine on him. Then, they lifted him up and left in a hurry, as though they were fleeing for their lives. At this moment, 3 more warships flew over from the horizon. The banners on the bows had the words Lu, Yu, and Feng written on them. The people from Wanren Peak, Beichen Peak, and Gangyu Peak are here. What a coincidence! The true inheritors of these 3 peaks are also pursuing Lingliusu. I wonder how they will react, someone below said with a smile. Damn, I almost have a personal guard already. Xiaochen felt a headache coming on. He finally understood the saying of Confucius, women should not be offended. He could not bear it. How many pursuers does this woman have? I wonder if there is no end. When Lu Ruyue saw Xiaochen's frustrated expression, she smiled gently and said, "If you were the young pavilion master of Heavenly Saber Pavilion, these men might come and pursue you." Xiaochen's face darkened. He said, "This joke is not funny. Speaking of which, elder sister Ruyue, a natural beauty like you, do you not have many pursuers? If there are, they can help me block them." Lu Ruyue's pretty face did not show any expression. She said casually, "If I had such a brainless pursuer, I would just kill him with my saber. I would not be able to afford to lose face." The 3 warships slowly landed. Someone immediately told them what happened earlier. The true inheritors of the 3 peaks glanced at Xiaochen. In the end, they feared Lu Ruyue and did not come over. After a while, the cultivators from the foot of the mountain rushed to the platform. The huge platform was quickly filled with people. It looked like the teachings of a martial monarch had a fatal attraction to cultivators. When Lu Suifeng and the others saw Xiaochen, they quickly went over. However, Lu Suifeng only greeted Xiaochen before he rushed over to where the Jade Maiden Peak disciples were. Lu Ruyue snorted coldly, "Useless. Bo!" Just at this moment, an intense spatial fluctuation appeared in the surroundings. Ripples could be seen spreading out in the air. This was a sign that a martial monarch was coming. When a cultivator reached the realm of martial monarch, they would have a basic grasp of the laws of space. Traveling 1,000 kilometers in an instant was not a difficult task for them. They would be able to evolve their own laws and become a martial sage in one step, possessing a lifespan of 1,000 years. However, in the past 1,000 years, there had been very few martial sages in the great Qin nation. Suddenly, the ripples moved quickly and a tiny spatial crack appeared on the high platform of the heaven ascending platform. An old man's figure appeared out of nowhere. The old man's face was covered in wrinkles, and his body was very lethargic. However, his eyes were as bright as the stars, deep and distant, as if they contained a boundless universe. A powerful aura instantly spread throughout the entire mountain peak. Everyone felt a huge pressure, and the noisy heaven-ascending platform instantly fell silent. Xiao Chen looked at the cultivator on the platform and felt astonished. This was probably the strength of a peak martial monarch. He was just one step away from becoming a martial sage. That was if the old man could last that long. I have not come out for a long time. I do not know if I will have the chance to in the future. I will not speak too much nonsense. I will only speak about my past experiences. However, everyone has their own style. Do not blindly follow others. You have to consider your own situation and not bite off more than you can chew. The old man's somewhat hoarse voice reached everyone's ears. It was not loud, but it seemed to imprint itself in their minds, making it impossible to forget. When I was young, I harbored a dream. I brought my beloved saber to the heavenly saber pavilion. I wanted to become the strongest bladesman in the world. I wanted to learn the unblockable saber techniques, the fastest saber techniques in the world. When I grew old, I realized how laughable I was back then. There was the saying, biting off more than you can chew, wanting to reach the heavens in one step. This was the principle. By the time I understood, I had already wasted several decades. Everyone thinks that the saber is tyrannical and ferocious. However, they do not know that every saber has its own emotions. It can be gentle like water, free and unrestrained, or direct. Every bladesman has their own personality. I remember that in the past, I met a few demonic geniuses. The saber that accompanied me for many years broke on the spot. I switched to a few sabers and trained bitterly for many years, but I was still no match for those geniuses. Some people are blessed by the heavens. Everyone will meet such geniuses. No matter what, you can change your saber, but the heart of the bladesman cannot be shaken. This old man spoke very slowly. The content of his speech was very different from what Xiao Chen expected. Xiao Chen originally thought that the old man would be talking about a powerful martial technique. Who knew, he only talked about some of the old man's comprehensions and experiences. The old man's tone was extremely calm. He did not cite any classics or make up a long story. The old man only spoke about the problems he faced in every cultivation realm back then. The old man's ordinary experiences, coupled with his ordinary speaking speed, were very calm. However, everyone present had some sort of comprehension. This was because the experiences the old man spoke about were experienced by all the cultivators of different cultivation realms. Many of the problems they had were answered by the old man's words. When the old man spoke about the problems and setbacks he faced when he was a martial grand master, Xiao Chen listened very carefully. After that, he combined it with his current situation. Many of the problems he faced were suddenly cleared up. After that, when the old man spoke about the martial saint realm, it was like a beacon for Xiao Chen. This way, he would be able to avoid many detours. Not only did the old man talk about his experiences, he also talked about some of his unique understandings of saber techniques. Every understanding he had would be combined with his own experiences, using practical examples to illustrate. It did not make anyone feel empty. Everyone present could easily understand it. Xiao Chen could not help but admire the old man. This was what a true grandmaster was. He was not pretentious, not talking about big but empty things, not deliberately mystifying things. This was because even if he said it, no one would understand it. It would only confuse the people listening. A person's talent determines how fast they can go. As for a person's perseverance, it determines how far they can go. One cannot give up on oneself because of talent, belittling oneself. Perseverance is the most important thing. After saying this, the old man silently left. His voice was still echoing in everyone's ears, so no one noticed the old man's departure. After a long time, everyone came to their senses. Only then did they realize that the old man had already left for a long time. The stone platform returned to its bustling state. Cultivators walked in groups of 2s and 3s, heading down the mountain and discussing their earlier experiences. Xiao Yang said somewhat excitedly, "As long as I have perseverance, I will become a martial monarch one day." Earlier, the old man talked about how he once met a strong cultivator who cultivated the physical body. That cultivator was as strong as a martial monarch and was extremely strong. Hence, Xiao Yang was very encouraged. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. He agreed with the old man's last sentence. No matter how talented one was, without perseverance, one would not be able to go far on the path of cultivation. Lu Ruyue looked into the distance at Lu Suifeng, who was smiling as he followed Chu Xinyan. She shook her head and said, "Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng, don't go to pick the ice crystal flowers today. Leave it to Yi Chen and Suifeng. I already spoke to Suifeng this morning. You just have to wait for him." Xiao Yang shook his head and said, "Elder sister Ruyue, I feel a fire burning in my heart. Let me go." "Burning your head?" Lu Ruyue used the scabbard and knocked heavily on the stout Xiao Yang. "Do you really think that you are an expert after listening to a few words? Calm down first." Xiao Yang felt the pain and immediately shut up. He did not say anything else about his blood burning. He followed Lu Ruyue to the bottom of the mountain. Xiao Chen did not leave. He stood where he was and waited for Lu Suifeng. After a while, Lu Suifeng walked over to Xiao Chen. What made Xiao Chen surprised was that the top beauty of Jade Maiden Peak, Chu Xinyan, also followed. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. "What is this? This brat Lu Suifeng is too reckless. He is going out to do proper business, but he still brings a girl with him." Lu Suifeng quickly walked over. His handsome face was filled with smiles as he introduced her to Xiao Chen. "This is Miss Xinyan from Jade Maiden Peak. This time, she is going to Evil Wind Valley with us." "Hello, I am Chu Xinyan. Suifeng mentioned you to me before." Chu Xinyan smiled faintly and took the initiative to greet Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen stood so close to Chu Xinyan, that kind of unforgettable beauty nearly suffocated him. However, Xiao Chen had seen many beauties. He was somewhat immune to them. His expression did not change as he smiled gently. "I wonder why Miss Chu is going to Evil Wind Valley with us." Before Chu Xinyan could say anything, Lu Suifeng spoke first. "Aside from being a cultivator, Xinyan is also an alchemist. Although she can obtain some herbs in the sect, it is very taxing on her contribution points. Thus, she picks most of them herself." Chu Xinyan nodded, tacitly agreeing with Lu Suifeng's words. Xiao Chen was speechless. Looking at their attitudes, Xiao Chen was sure that Lu Suifeng had never even held Chu Xinyan's hand before. "Never mind, as long as I can obtain the ice crystal flower, it will be fine. Hopefully, nothing unexpected happens," Xiao Chen thought helplessly. The three of them started to descend the mountain. Along the way, Lu Suifeng was very lively. He talked about all sorts of topics. Occasionally, Chu Xinyan would smile gently. She was extremely beautiful, making Lu Suifeng feel very satisfied. Xiao Chen shook his head, but there was nothing he could do. After the three of them descended the mountain, they did not leave Lingyun Mountain Range. Instead, they went to the Spirit Beast Workshop of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The journey to Evil Wind Valley was very long. Although the three of them were not slow, they did not want to waste their essence on the journey. Thus, they planned to rent a few fast horses. Using their inner disciple identity medallions, the three of them could rent the lowest-ranked horses for free. If they wanted to rent spirit beasts, they would have to pay extra money. There were all sorts of spirit beasts in the Spirit Beast Workshop. If you had enough spirit stones, you could rent some high-ranked spirit beasts to fight for you. However, the three of them could only look at these spirit beasts. Renting them was very expensive. Although Xiao Chen was not lacking in money, it was not good for him to expose himself. Chapter 158. After choosing their horses and registering them, a discordant voice came from behind them. "Brother Lu, stop." Xiao Chen turned his head to take a look. It was indeed Song Qianhao riding a 3-meter-tall flame cloud colt towards the crowd. A few Bian Peak disciples were riding flame cloud colts behind him, slowly following behind him. This flame cloud colt was a rank 3 horse-type spirit beast. Its fur was like a red cloud of fire, it looked very beautiful. Furthermore, when it galloped, it was very fast, like a cloud of fire. When Lu Suifeng saw Song Qianhe, the smile on his face disappeared. He immediately turned his head and said, "Ignore him, let's go." After he spoke, he rode off on his horse. Xiao Chen and Chu Xinyan followed behind. Soon, they disappeared from Song Qianhe's vision. Song Qianhe smiled coldly and stroked the horse he was sitting on. He said, "Wait until I take care of your sister. Let's see how angry you are then." Zhang Jin, who was behind him, suddenly said, "Senior brother Song, it was not easy for that brat to leave Qingyan Peak. This is an opportunity. If we are fast, we will be able to catch up to them quickly." Song Qianhe smiled faintly, "I'm free to make my own decisions. Today is the day the ice crystal flower blooms. That sickly man on Qingyan Peak needs to use the ice crystal flower as medicine to prolong his life." It seemed like there was a big conflict between Bian Peak and Qingyan Peak. Otherwise, the expressions of the Lu sisters would not change immediately when they saw Song Qianhe. Although Xiao Chen was curious, it was obvious that Lu Suifeng did not want to talk about this topic. Thus, Xiao Chen did not ask for a rebuff. The three of them galloped on their horses, kicking up a cloud of dust. Although they were not riding horses like the flame cloud colts, they were still much faster than ordinary horses. After traveling for 4 hours, the three of them finally arrived at Evil Wind Valley. Like before, the area outside of Evil Wind Valley was bustling. This might be the first time Chu Xinyan came to such a place. She was very curious and looked around. However, for an absolute beauty like her, if she did not keep a low profile when she went out, she was destined to be the center of attention. Soon, she attracted the attention of all the cultivators outside the valley. Xiao Chen could even hear some people swallowing their saliva. It was as wretched as one could imagine. He could not help but smile bitterly in his heart, hoping that there would not be any trouble. Fortunately, the silver tokens on their waists clearly indicated their identities. These outer sect disciples could only look at them and did not dare to do anything improper. Even the most ordinary disciple in the inner sect could easily crush 3 outer sect disciples. This was caused by the strict elimination system of the last place. At this moment, Lu Suifeng's complexion had already recovered. He familiarly found a place to store the horses, then the three of them quickly entered Evil Wind Valley. "Xinyan, I'm afraid something might happen. How about we go pick the ice crystal flower first?" Lu Suifeng asked Chu Xinyan. Chu Xinyan smiled faintly, "I have no objections. After all, I am not in a rush for my medicinal pill. Just treat it as going down the mountain to take in the scenery." When Lu Suifeng heard this, he smiled. He quickly walked towards the place where the ice crystal flower was. There was a senior in Qingyan Peak who needed the ice crystal flower as an ingredient to prolong his life. Thus, every once in a while, Lu Suifeng would come to pick it. Fortunately, that senior was almost fully recovered. After picking it this time, he should be able to make a complete recovery. There would not be any more trouble in the future. Lu Suifeng led the way in front. He had come to this place more than once or twice. He was much more familiar with it than Xiao Chen. As they walked, they passed through the river and the forest. They did not meet any spirit beasts before they arrived at the cliff. "Something's wrong, there's a problem." The three of them had just walked out of the forest when a strong smell of blood came with the cool breeze. Lu Suifeng's expression turned cold as he rushed forward. Below the tall cliff lay the corpses of 2 young ice apes. Their chests were torn open and the valuable internal organs and spirit cores had all been taken away. Looking at the cliff, the place where the ice crystal flower used to be was now empty. The ice crystal flower, even its leaves, had been pulled out by someone. This was a medicine that could be used to save lives. Unexpectedly, it was taken away by someone. Lu Suifeng revealed a blank expression as he muttered, "How can this be?" Who is so wicked to pull out the roots? Xiao Chen looked at the corpses of the young ice apes on the ground. The blood had yet to coagulate and the jagged teeth on the wounds were still very clear. This meant that this group of people had not left for long. Xiao Chen extended out his spiritual sense and spread it out continuously. In an instant, the surrounding 2,000 meters was imprinted in Xiao Chen's mind. Xiao Chen eliminated the cultivators one by one. Finally, 2 medial-grade martial grandmasters were stared at by Xiao Chen. The silver medallions on their waists were very eye-catching. Retracting his spiritual sense, he turned it into a line and scanned the 2 of them. Indeed, he saw that one of them had an entire ice crystal flower wrapped in his bosom. After the 2 of them walked for a long time, they stopped in a dense forest. A group of cultivators riding on flame cloud colts had been waiting there for a long time. The person leading them was Song Qianhe. He received the ice crystal flower and revealed a sinister smile. He said indifferently, "Lu Ruyue, let's see how you are going to reject me this time. When I completely subdue you, Qingyun Peak will naturally be annexed by my Bian Peak." Xiao Chen's expression turned cold. He felt a rage in his heart for no reason. He revealed a heavy killing qi on his face and his expression became very sharp. Beside this group of people, there was an outer sect cultivator dressed in luxurious robes. It was the man with the scar, Yan Tianjing, who had mocked Xiao Chen previously. Yan Tianjing smiled faintly, "Elder brother Song, I did a pretty good job, right? I have the most spies in the outer sect. If you want me to keep an eye on someone, I will definitely be able to find out everything about them." This Yan Tianjing was the second young master of the Shihe province's Yan clan. He had a very strong background. Song Qianhe did not dare to slight him. He smiled slowly and said, "Brother Yan, you must be joking. How can you say that you are doing me a favor? I, Song, owe you a favor. I can give you a spot in Bian Peak at any time." Yan Tianjing smiled in satisfaction. He had worked so hard for Song Qianhe for this result. If he could enter Bian Peak, his position in the clan would immediately rise. Xiao Chen could not be bothered to continue listening. He placed a spiritual mark on Song Qianhe's body before quickly withdrawing his spiritual sense. Lu Suifeng still had a confused expression. Chu Xinyun, who was beside him, did not know how to persuade him. Xiao Chen thought for a while before saying, "This ice crystal flower was taken by Song Qianhe." Song Qianhe? Lu Suifeng was stunned when he heard this. He immediately said, "Yi Chen, how did you know?" Of course, Xiao Chen could not tell him this. He could only lie, "I have a secret treasure that can sense things very strongly. Earlier, I saw 2 inner disciples hand the ice crystal flower over to Song Qianhe." "How hateful!" Lu Suifeng said angrily. His right hand hammered down on the mountain wall violently. Cracks appeared on the stone wall and pieces of rock fell down. "This Lu Suifeng must be trying to use the ice crystal flower to threaten my sister. Previously, his father wanted to use the excuse of marriage to invade my Qingyun Peak. After my sister rejected him, he did not give up. Now, he is using this despicable method." Chu Xinyun's thoughts were more meticulous. She said to Xiao Chen, "Yi Chen, how many people did Song Qianhe bring? What are their cultivations like?" Xiao Chen replied, "Including him, there is a total of 10 inner disciples. The one with the highest cultivation is Song Qianhe, a peak martial grand master. Aside from that, there is an outer disciple, Yan Tianjing. An inferior grade martial grand master. He was the one who found out Lu Suifeng's whereabouts and reported it to Song Qianhe." When Chu Xinyun heard this, her pretty face revealed a worried expression. The weakest inner disciple was a medial-grade martial grand master. Adding in Yan Tianjing, they had a total of 11 martial grand masters. On her side, there were only 3 people. The difference in strength was too great. A cold gleam flashed in Lu Suifeng's eyes. He said coldly, "I don't care about anything else. We have to obtain the ice crystal flower. Otherwise, my sister might really fall into that bastard's hands. Yi Chen, lead the way." We have to intercept them before they leave the valley. Xiao Chen nodded his head and felt for the spiritual imprint he had obtained. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and circled around the small path towards that group of people. His figure leaped across the ground, moving as fast as lightning. Along the way, Xiao Chen kept thinking of countermeasures. The inner disciples of Heavenly Saber Pavilion were all elites. Within the same cultivation realm, ordinary cultivators were far from being a match for them. Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. Suddenly, Xiao Chen stopped and said, "The distance is too far. Furthermore, they are riding flame cloud colts. We will not be able to catch up to them." After Xiao Chen spoke, he did not care about the two's shock. A silver warship shot out from his eyes and he quickly said, "Quickly get on." The situation was urgent. Although Chu Xinyun and Lu Suifeng were shocked, they did not have the chance to ask. They jumped on without saying anything else. After the two of them got on, Xiao Chen activated the formations on the silver warship with all his might. He turned into a bolt of lightning and quickly flew forward. After a short while, Xiao Chen arrived in front of Song Qianhe and the others. Xiao Chen quickly descended and leaped onto a big tree. "They should be passing by here. Don't show any mercy, kill them all." Xiao Chen's words did not contain any emotions, they were incomparably cold. Chu Xinyun and Lu Suifeng trembled in fear. Chu Xinyun said, "Yi Chen, killing a fellow disciple is a huge crime in Heavenly Saber Pavilion. If you are discovered, you will be tortured to death. We can discuss this with Song Qianhe." "How naive," Xiao Chen smiled coldly, "do you think everyone is as pure as you? If you are afraid, you don't have to participate. Being soft-hearted will only ruin things. This matter has nothing to do with you in the first place." When Chu Xinyun heard this, she was stunned. She frowned slightly, she was so angered by Xiao Chen that she choked. She did not expect Xiao Chen to be so direct. There was no man in Heavenly Saber Pavilion who dared to speak to her like that. Lu Suifeng also advised from the side, "This time, it might really be a fight to the death. Xinyun, you better stay back." Dong! 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 The sound of horses galloping came from the front. There were slight tremors on the ground. Xiao Chen was hidden on top of a tree and he could feel the tree shaking slightly. He took out the Soul Slayer bow and Essence Light arrow. He focused and drew the bowstring. There was nothing else in his eyes, he just stared straight ahead. Chapter 159. So, when Song Qianhe and the others appeared in Xiao Chen's vision, Xiao Chen did not hesitate to release the Essence Light arrow. The Essence Light arrow turned into a beam of light, carrying a boundless killing chi as it flew forward rapidly. This arrow was not aimed at Song Qianhe, this battle was too dangerous. Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless and wanted to kill him in one strike. This arrow was aimed at the weakest person in the group, Zhang Jin. As the horses galloped, dust billowed. Suddenly, Song Qianhe, who was on horseback, felt a killing chi. When he saw a cold light flying in front of him, he quickly jumped off his horse and shouted, "Enemy attack! Quickly dismount!" Xiao Chen was astonished in his heart. Fortunately, he did not aim the Essence Light arrow at this person. Looking at his reaction speed, this arrow might not be able to do anything. Zhang Jin was preparing to dismount when the Essence Light arrow pierced his throat with a "so" sound. The arrow carried a huge force and instantly pulled him off his horse. His body flew backwards and knocked into a cultivator. The flame cloud colt he was riding on was startled and jumped around frantically. The scene instantly turned chaotic. Amidst the chaos, another Essence Light arrow flew by gracefully. The flame cloud colt under him was immediately startled and jumped around wildly. The scene instantly turned chaotic. In the midst of the chaos, another Essence Light arrow flew by gracefully. A Bian Peak disciple was pierced through the throat and pinned to the ground. When Xiao Chen saw that there were no more opportunities, he put away the Soul Slayer bow and took out the Lunar Shadow Saber. He said, "Make your move. Remember to help me delay Song Qianhe." Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyun were in disbelief when they saw Xiao Chen kill 2 people from Biyun Peak in the blink of an eye. After all, these were fellow disciples of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had some reservations in their hearts. Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyun were in disbelief when they saw Xiao Chen attack as he pleased. In the blink of an eye, he had killed 2 Biyun Peak disciples. After all, these were fellow disciples of Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had some reservations in their hearts. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Xiao Chen descended from the sky and landed beside Song Qianhe. Behind the flame cloud cult, Song Qianhe saw Xiao Chen's appearance clearly. He was somewhat astonished as he said, "It's you, Lu Rui's disciple. You actually dare to kill the people of my Biyun Peak. You are truly seeking death." The moment he spoke, the remaining 8 cultivators all poked their heads out. When they saw that Xiao Chen was alone, their initial fear instantly vanished. They surrounded Xiao Chen aggressively. "Since you delivered yourself to my doorstep, don't blame me for being merciful. Kill him," Song Qianhe said with a cold expression. Clank clank. The sound of a saber being unsheathed could be heard. The saber light rose up and the wind howled. 8 silhouettes rushed towards Xiao Chen quickly. Boundless killing intent swept towards Xiao Chen. Song Qianhe did not make a move. In his eyes, Xiao Chen was already a dead man. There was no need to pay any attention to him. He looked into the distance and saw 2 figures rushing over quickly. The corner of his mouth curled up in a cold smile, Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyun. "That's good as well. It gives me an excuse to make my move on you." Flight on wings, disordered dance of 1,000 years. Xiao Chen's expression was calm as he executed the disordered dance of 1,000 years. A strong gust of wind rose from his body. His figure was already in the air, continuously changing his position. Saber lights shot out in all directions and energy flew everywhere. There were clanging sounds. Xiao Chen, who was in the air, left behind a series of afterimages. In an instant, he sent out countless saber strikes. Even though he moved later, he arrived first, attacking the 8 people first. His figure flickered, it was hard to tell which was the real one. The people of Biyun Peak looked at Xiao Chen, who was in the air. They could not figure out his figure at all. They could only passively block when the saber light flashed by. In an instant, Xiao Chen single-handedly dealt with these 8 people. Furthermore, he did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Xiao Chen even held the upper hand. The boundless saber lights seemed endless. Combined with the afterimages in the air, it was dazzling. After the disordered dance of 1,000 years was executed, Xiao Chen's body paused in the air. The blue dragon in the river in his body leaped up ferociously. Xiao Chen's feet pushed off the air as though he was on flat ground. His body quickly flipped backward. When they landed, the 8 cultivators all had a few wounds on their bodies. Yan Tianzheng, who was in the crowd, suddenly shouted angrily, "I'll smack you to death." Dragon seizing hand. A huge black hand appeared above Xiao Chen's head. It covered the sun, as though it covered the sky and pressed down on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. He did not expect this Yan Tianzheng to be a Yan clan disciple with an inherited martial spirit. He pushed off the ground and quickly dodged. The remaining 7 people did not stop moving. They quickly rushed at Xiao Chen. Saber lights flashed wantonly. The 7 of them used their martial techniques, taking turns to attack Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen did not panic in the face of danger. He brought out all the comprehensions he had gained in the past few days. Using only the basic saber techniques, he broke the martial techniques of these people one by one. There were 8 saber techniques: sweep, hack, push, scrape, sweep, chop, chop, and pierce. Xiao Chen made use of every opportunity he had. He continuously executed them as he fought with the 7 people. Occasionally, he dodged the huge black palm descending from above. The heaven-ranked movement technique, Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Art, allowed Xiao Chen's body to be as nimble as a flood dragon. Although the situation was dangerous, he was not injured at all. These 7 people were Bian Peak disciples. Normally, they trained together. Now that they worked together, their movements were perfect. Xiao Qin could not find any openings in a short period of time. Both sides could only fight in a stalemate. On the other side, Lu Suifeng knew that they had shed all pretense of cordiality. He did not hesitate to draw his saber and fight with Song Qianhe. The two of them had grasped the martial techniques of Qingyun Peak and Bian Peak. Their fight was very intense. However, Song Qianhe's cultivation realm was higher than Lu Suifeng's. He had the upper hand. If it were not for Chu Xinyan helping him, he would have been in danger. Chu Xinyan, have you forgotten the rules of Heavenly Saber Pavilion? They dared to attack their fellow sect members. They have already committed a capital offense. If you continue to fight, you will be considered an accomplice. Song Qianhe saw that the fight was not going to end, so he used psychological tactics and shouted at Chu Xinyan. These words struck Chu Xinyan's weak point. Her hands could not help but pause for a moment. Song Qianhe smiled coldly and took advantage of the opportunity. 3 saber lights appeared in the air. His body was like flowing water, and his speed doubled. This was Bian Peak's 3 flowing cloud images. Lu Suifeng, who had been working together with Chu Xinyan, was caught off guard. He was struck by 3 saber lights, and 3 bloody wounds appeared on his chest. Blood immediately flowed out. Seeing Lu Suifeng injured, Chu Xinyan quickly recovered and blocked Song Qianhe's killing move. The two of them worked together to block Song Qianhe's attack once again. However, it was clear that they were at a disadvantage. Xiao Qin easily dealt with the saber lights of the 7 people. When he saw this scene, he could not help but sigh to himself. At the crucial moment of life and death, Chu Xinyan is still in a daze. This little girl is unreliable. Shua! Noticing that Xiao Qin was distracted, one of them took the opportunity to increase his speed. The saber in his hand left a small wound on Xiao Qin's arm. Everyone rejoiced in their hearts. After fighting for so long, they finally managed to injure Xiao Qin. Their morale could not help but increase. The cold light on their sabers became even sharper. Xiao Qin smiled faintly to himself. When he saw the huge black hand descending on him again, he purposely slowed down his pace. Xiao Qin was struck by the shockwave from the huge black hand. He stumbled and fell to the ground. After that, he quickly got up in a sorry state. Xiao Qin's back was facing the crowd, and he immediately revealed an opening. A few more saber lights landed on Xiao Qin's body. By the time Xiao Qin turned around, his body was already covered in wounds. He had a pained expression on his face, he looked very miserable. There is no need to waste time. Everyone, put in more effort and kill him quickly. Yan Tianzheng, who was at the side, sent out another black hand image as he said excitedly. The 7 Bian Peak disciples became excited as well. Whoever killed Xiao Qin first would be rewarded greatly. At that time, Song Qianhe would definitely reward them handsomely. Their essence was rapidly depleting as they continuously executed all sorts of killing moves. Their originally well-coordinated footwork was now in disarray. They only wanted to kill Xiao Qin quickly. However, these people did not notice that although there were many wounds on Xiao Qin's body, they were not fatal. Furthermore, the wounds were not deep, they were only superficial wounds. Although it looked like a bloody mess, it was actually all superficial wounds on his body. For the past 2 months, Xiao Qin had been tempering his body every day. Regular attacks could no longer leave behind any fatal wounds on his body. Xiao Qin's expression was extremely unsightly as he quickly retreated. His footsteps were very disorderly. Facing the attacks of the torrential rain, he was like a floating leaf swaying left and right, he was surrounded by danger. It seemed like as long as there was one final strike, Xiao Qin would immediately die without a complete corpse. Just at this moment, a Bian Peak disciple had already left the group far behind because he was in too much of a hurry. A light flashed in Xiao Qin's eyes. He stopped moving and a boundless flame started to burn in the depths of his right eye. When that person saw that Xiao Chen did not move, he rejoiced. He leaped into the air and hacked at Xiao Chen's head with his saber, creating a strong wind. When the saber was only 2 centimeters away from Xiao Chen's forehead, a flame as thick as a pinky suddenly spewed out from Xiao Chen's right eye. Its speed was extremely fast and it pierced through that person's chest. A hole appeared in that person's chest. He revealed an incredulous expression. When he saw the hole in his chest rapidly expanding, he was incomparably horrified. That person wanted to grab onto something, but there was nothing he could do to stop the spread of the flame. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a pile of ashes and fell to the ground. Xiao Zhou. The sudden turn of events caught the Bian Peak disciples off guard. 3 Bian Peak disciples who were on good terms with Xiao Zhou lost their rationality. They roared angrily and leaped into the air. 3 saber lights, each about 6 meters long, hacked down at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen revealed a disdainful smile. Although this irrational attack looked ferocious, it was actually full of openings. If he used some skill, he could easily receive it. He took a small step back with his right foot and tilted his body slightly, using the 8 steps of the pull formula. He executed the 8 moves of the saber technique, and with a huangdang sound, the lunar shadow saber easily blocked the 3 saber strikes. The huge black hand in the sky condensed again. It wanted to make use of this opportunity to smash down on Xiao Chen. You are really never-ending. Xiao Chen snorted coldly and pointed his left hand to the sky. Using his fingers as a sword, a similarly huge black hand appeared. The 2 fingers of the huge hand were like a sharp sword, instantly breaking Yan Tianjing's dragon-seizing hand. Chapter 160. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He opened his left hand and the huge black hand turned into a huge mountain with 5 fingers. How can this be? My Yan clan's dragon-seizing hand does not have an inherited martial spirit. It is impossible to execute it. How could he learn it? Under Yan Tianjing's disbelieving gaze, the huge hand smashed down and pushed him to the ground. He vomited a mouthful of blood. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and the blue dragon martial spirit in his body roared ferociously. A boundless essence poured into his right hand. Xiao Chen swung the lunar shadow saber ferociously, creating a strong wind. He flung away the 3 people in the air. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky. The saber lit up with a resplendent electric light. He quickly executed drawing the saber. This was the rushing thunder saber technique that was close to great perfection. This saber strike was as fast as lightning. It brought with it a bone-chilling cold wind. It directly chopped the person who was preparing to sneak attack him in half. When the 3 Bian Peak disciples who were flung to the ground saw their companion chopped in half at the waist by Xiao Chen, the huge visual impact caused them to feel a chill in their hearts. They stood there blankly for a moment before rushing over again. Xiao Chen smiled gently and took a step forward. Another bolt of lightning streaked across the sky. Xiao Chen's aura slowly rose. Facing the 3 Bian Peak disciples charging at him, Xiao Chen grasped the saber hilt tightly with his right hand. He casually pulled and drew a resplendent arc in the air. The arc flickered with electric light. Explode! Xiao Chen shouted and the electric light on the arc trembled violently, giving off a loud sound. It created a sharp shockwave. The air exploded like flowing water and the 3 people were immediately knocked back. Footsteps came from behind. The remaining 3 people had already surrounded him from behind. Xiao Chen ignored them. Accompanied by a bolt of lightning, his body soared into the sky. This rushing heaven chop had already been executed to perfection by Xiao Chen. His body seemed to tear through space as he streaked across the sky like a beam of light. The rainbow light disappeared in a blink of an eye. After a long distance, there was a loud explosion. A cultivator's body was pierced through, exploding into pieces. Hovering in the air, Xiao Chen's body strangely paused in the air. Thunderclaps continued to explode behind him. The sound waves shook the surroundings, causing the leaves in the dense forest to fall. Because he was afraid of being distracted, Song Qianhe had not been paying attention to the battle at the side. Now that Xiao Chen had caused such a huge commotion, he had no choice but to look. In the end, Song Qianhe turned pale with fright. Originally, he thought he could easily take down Xiao Chen. However, he had already killed 3 Biyun Peak disciples. Furthermore, he held the upper hand. Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyun were astonished at Xiao Chen's strength. They quickly delayed Song Qianhe, preventing him from helping. The battle between the three of them became even more intense. Song Qianhe was very anxious, his attacks became heavier and heavier, forcing the two of them to retreat. However, after Chu Xinyun used her true strength, the two of them had no problem blocking Song Qianhe's attacks. Rushing Thunder Chop. Xiao Chen shouted and his saber gave off a bright glow. It was like lightning descending from the sky. Xiao Chen landed on the head of a Biyun Peak disciple. The lunar shadow saber quickly chopped down, and a pka-ca sound rang out. The spirit weapon that person used to block was instantly split in half. The lunar shadow saber did not stop as it continued to descend, chopping that person in half from head to toe. Looking at the two people at the side, Xiao Chen did not stop at all. His movements were like flowing water as he executed the rushing thunder second chain chop, taking advantage of the situation. Xiao Chen's aura rose to its peak. The feeling he gave off now was like the god of thunder. The rushing thunder second chain chop that he had accumulated energy for 4 moves was executed. The force contained in the saber had reached its peak. Its speed was also at its peak, making it impossible for anyone to block it. Shwa! The two people at the side were cleanly cut into 2 halves. The flickering electric light on the blade charred the 2 corpses black from the electric shock. There are still 3 left. Xiao Chen withdrew his saber and stood upright. The aura on his body slowly dissipated. At this moment, the 3 people were already scared out of their wits. They wanted to run, but they did not dare to. They were afraid that Song Qianhe would settle the score with them later. If that happened, they would not have a good time in Biyun Peak. His essence should be almost exhausted, there is no need to be afraid. The 3 of them comforted each other and rushed at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and his body suddenly became blurry like flowing water. The lunar shadow saber in his hand split into 3 afterimages, and his speed instantly doubled. This is the 3 flowing cloud images. How does he know it? This was a secret technique that only the true inheritors of Biyun Peak could learn. After it reached great perfection, it had the might of an earth-ranked martial technique. Now that Xiao Chen executed it, the 3 of them could not understand. Caught off guard, Xiao Chen moved like flowing water. He left a horrifying wound on each of them, causing blood to flow. Interesting. Xiao Chen thought to himself. He did not expect the 3 flowing cloud images to have such might when imitating it with the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. It was as gentle and silent as flowing water, but it had the momentum of a surging river. It flowed without end and could move at will, making it hard to grasp. This was the essence of the 3 flowing cloud images. After executing the 3 flowing cloud images, Xiao Chen suddenly comprehended something. Sudden comprehension was a wondrous state that could only be discovered and not sought. Xiao Chen completely forgot about the situation in his surroundings. He was immersed in the state of the 3 flowing cloud images. Using the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula, Xiao Chen continuously simulated the 3 flowing cloud images. His entire body seemed to have turned into a small trickling river, flowing continuously. The river water slowly became turbulent, turning into a gushing river. It surged forward and created countless waves. That's not right, this is not the feeling that the 3 flowing cloud images want. Xiao Chen shook his head and his footwork started to change. The gushing river slowly calmed down, turning into a pool of calm seawater. There were no ripples on the surface of the sea, it was as smooth as a mirror. The clouds in the sky moved quickly in the sea, it was like there was another sky here. The water under the sea flowed slowly. The huge rocks that were as tall as mountains were silently eroded by the water, turning into small depressions. Xiao Chen suddenly woke up. When he looked at his surroundings, he could not help but be startled. He had actually walked 100 meters without realizing it. The 3 Bian Peak disciples were also dragged over by Xiao Chen. There was not a single part of their skin that was unscathed. They were covered in wounds of varying depths, they could not be any more dead. Wherever Xiao Chen passed by, a 1-meter-wide gully appeared. It was like flowing water had flowed through it, it was so smooth that there were no ripples at all. Song Qianhe looked at all this in astonishment. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he muttered, "This is the state of perfection like water. Even my father has not reached this state." Taking advantage of the moment Song Qianhe was distracted, Lu Suifeng shouted and the saber light on his saber sword. As the saber light approached, Song Qianhe felt a dangerous aura. He quickly recovered his wits and swung his saber to block this attack. Xiao Chen took a step forward and stared at Song Qianhe, who was fighting. Yan Tianzheng, who was beside him, had already recovered and was struggling to stand up. Dragon seizing hand. Xiao Chen did not even bother looking at him. A huge black palm appeared from nowhere. He clenched his fingers and turned them into a huge fist. The ground trembled and Yan Tianzheng was smashed into meat paste. Xiao Chen had a faint smile on his face as he walked toward Song Qianhe. He used his spiritual sense to form a huge deity in the air. That deity opened its eyes. Its gaze was like a torch as it tore through the air and stared at Song Qianhe. This was a deity that was once imitated by an ancient sage. Naturally, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was not as strong as a sage's. However, it was more than enough to deal with Song Qianhe. Song Qianhe, who was fighting with Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyan, felt a formless pressure. It was like a pair of eyes pierced through time and entered his mind. As Xiao Chen got closer, the pressure slowly increased. He felt like his heartbeat was synchronized with Xiao Chen's footsteps. Bang! 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 The sound of his heartbeat became louder and louder, like it was going to jump out of his chest at any moment. Song Qianhe thought to himself, "What's going on? That person is just an inferior grade martial master. There is no need to panic, I need to remain calm." Although he was doing his best to remain calm, it was like his limbs were bound by something. Lu Suifeng took advantage of this opportunity to leave many wounds on Song Qianhe's body. Xiao Chen did not make a move. He simply stood quietly at the side and continuously focused his spiritual sense on that deity. Golden halos appeared behind the deity that could not be seen with the naked eye. The golden light was very dazzling and resplendent. Suddenly, a golden light shot out from the deity's eyes. The golden light seeped into Song Qianhe's soul. Song Qianhe's body trembled and his eyes opened wide. His body was actually temporarily restricted. After the deity shot out this golden light, it immediately shattered. Xiao Chen took advantage of this opportunity and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. His body turned into a flood dragon and soared into the sky. He created a cloud of dust as he passed by Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyan. In an instant, he arrived before Song Qianhe and hacked at his chest. Boom! There was a loud sound of metal clashing. This fellow actually wore a superior grade earth-ranked battle armor on his chest. Xiao Chen's saber strike did not kill him in one strike. However, the huge force gathered on the saber sent Song Qianhe flying. Blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. It was clear that he had suffered significant internal injuries. Song Qianhe came to his senses. Seeing that he had lost the upper hand, he turned around to leave. Trying to run? Leave the ice crystal flower behind. Lu Suifeng roared angrily and flew up. The small saber in his hand spun continuously in his palm. He casually tossed it out and the spinning small saber caused the surrounding air currents to blow up an intense hurricane. The hurricane rose from the ground and instantly engulfed Song Qianhe. Miserable cries came from within. When the hurricane stopped, Song Qianhe fell heavily from the sky, his body covered in wounds. Xiao Chen went forward and removed the universe ring from his hand. Xiao Chen gently touched it and a large number of inferior grade spirit stones fell out. There were also many good quality medicinal pills and gold notes. Xiao Chen found the ice crystal flower and handed it to Lu Suifeng. Lu Suifeng revealed a faint smile and happily received it. Seeing at least 100 inferior grade spirit stones on the ground, the smile on Lu Suifeng's face became even wider. He asked Xiao Chen, "What do we do with these spirit stones?" His meaning was very clear: he wanted to split the spoils. However, Chu Xinyan was here, so Lu Suifeng could not say it out loud. He wanted Xiao Chen to say it. Chapter 161. How could Xiao Chen not know what he meant? He cursed in his heart and smiled faintly. What else can we do? Split it among the three of us. When Song Qianhe, who was severely injured by Qin Yun Peak's secret technique, saw that Xiao Chen wanted to split his spirit stones, he scolded angrily, "You bunch of paupers, trash! Don't touch my spirit stones, otherwise Xiao Chen could not be bothered with him." He stepped on his face and interrupted him. After that, he stomped on his face a few times. Withdrawing his foot, Xiao Chen slowly placed the lunar shadow saber on Song Qianhe's throat. The danger of death frightened Song Qianhe until he turned pale. "Don't kill me, my father is the peak master of Bian Peak. He is already a peak martial king. If you kill me, you will not be able to escape." Chu Xinyan advised, "Young Master Yi, we cannot kill Song Qianhe. If we kill him, we will have no way out." Xiao Chen found it funny. Even at this moment, she is still talking about not killing Song Qianhe. If I let Song Qianhe go, could it be that I am waiting for him to recover and seek trouble for me? Just as Xiao Chen was deep in thought, a dagger flashing with a cold light suddenly appeared in Song Qianhe's sleeves. He got up and stabbed at Xiao Chen. Song Qianhe seemed to have prepared this move for a long time. It was incomparably fast. Although Xiao Chen was deep in thought, he kept his guard up. Just as the cold light was about to reach him, he quickly dodged to the side, dodging the killing move that Song Qianhe had prepared for a long time. Pu Ci. Seeing Xiao Chen dodge, Song Qianhe instantly changed his target. His right hand moved quickly and the dagger stabbed into Chu Xinyan's body. It dyed her pure white clothes red. Song Qianhe did not stop and quickly let go, pushing Chu Xinyan away. There were still a few flame cloud cults there. It was an opportunity for him to escape. Xiao Chen's expression turned cold. A huge black hand appeared out of nowhere. Just as Song Qianhe was about to mount a flame cloud cult, it grabbed him tightly. Xiao Chen pulled back with his right hand, causing Song Qianhe to scream as he was pulled back. With a loud bang, Song Qianhe landed heavily on the ground. Xiao Chen went up and stepped on Song Qianhe's face, continuously stepping on it. After a while, Song Qianhe's handsome face was badly mutilated from being stepped on. He groaned in pain. "Don't kill me." Xiao Chen could not be bothered with him. A cold light flashed on the lunar shadow saber and he hacked at Song Qianhe's neck. When Chu Xinyan, who was in Lu Suifeng's embrace, saw this, she said weakly, "Yi Chen, don't kill him, you can't. Were all women so narrow-minded? You nearly died, yet you still say not to kill me." Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. He paused for a moment before continuing to chop down. Every true inheritor of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has a trace of qi stored in the main hall. If you kill him, they will investigate your identity immediately. The Divine Saber Camp will chase you to the ends of the world, Chu Xinyan said anxiously. There is such a thing. Xiao Chen knew a little about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Divine Saber Camp. It represented the most elite force of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Everyone in there was an expert and they had a lot of combat experience. Xiao Chen felt very depressed. He spun his saber and the back of the lunar shadow saber hacked at Song Qianhe's neck, knocking him out. When Chu Xinyan saw the situation, her pale face relaxed. She took out a porcelain bottle from her bosom and handed it to Xiao Chen. "There is a medicinal pill in there. Feed it to him later, and it will erase all his memories of today." Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. He received the medicinal pill and pried open Song Qianhe's mouth. Then, He ruthlessly shoved the medicinal pill down Song Qianhe's throat. Lu Suifeng looked at the wound on Chu Xinyan's chest. He did not know what to do. He said anxiously, "Yi Chen, what should we do? The dagger is still stuck in Xinyan's body. Should we pull it out?" Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He lowered his body and looked at it carefully. Song Qianhe's move was very ferocious, it was very strong. Song Qianhe had stabbed the entire dagger in. Fortunately, the situation was urgent and he did not injure any vital points. The dagger was stuck in Xinyan's left shoulder. Lu Suifeng had already sealed a few acupoints nearby, temporarily stopping the bleeding. "Put this medicinal pill in first. I will try to see if I can pull it out now." Xiao Chen took out a blood-replenishing pill from the universe ring and handed it to Chu Xinyan. Chu Xinyan received the blood-replenishing pill and a strange light flashed in her eyes. She was not in a rush to put it in. Instead, she asked, "Yi Chen, did you refine this yourself?" Xiao Chen was currently trying to figure out how to pull out the dagger stuck in her left chest. He did not have the time to answer her question in detail, so he just nodded his head vaguely. Xiao Chen turned his spiritual sense into a thin thread and sent it into the wound. He saw that there were countless tiny hooks on both sides of the dagger. They were tightly embedded in Chu Xinyan's flesh. Xiao Chen took in a deep breath of cold air. His impression of Chu Xinyan changed slightly. The hooks were tightly embedded in the wound. It was easy to imagine what kind of pain it would bring to her. Chu Xinyan was in such great pain, yet she was able to remain so calm. It was not simple. Lu Suifeng, who was at the side, asked, "Yi Chen, are you confident? This dagger has to be pulled out as soon as possible. Otherwise, the longer it drags on, the more serious it will be." Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. Naturally, he understood this principle. However, he was not a professional. Although he had his own ideas, he was not 100% sure that it would work. There are many hooks on this dagger, they are already embedded in the flesh. Furthermore, the wound is very deep. I am not very confident. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chen decided to speak the truth. Xiao Chen placed the jade cloud pill in his mouth. The refreshing medicinal energy turned into a cooling sensation as it gathered at the wound and slowly circulated around. Chu Xinyan felt the pain lessen significantly. She revealed a warm smile as she said, "I believe in you. Do it." Lu Suifeng also said from the side, "Yi Chen, do it. Be decisive, don't drag this out." This Lu Suifeng made it sound simple. This concerns a human life. How can I not be cautious? Xiao Chen thought to himself. Xiao Chen took out a piece of wood from the universe ring and handed it to Chu Xinyan. "Here, put it in your mouth." "What is this for?" Chu Xinyan asked suspiciously as she received the piece of wood. Xiao Chen was a little speechless. He did not expect that she would not understand such a simple principle. He explained, "Although I know you are very good at enduring, the instant I pull the dagger out, it will be extremely painful. I'm afraid you will not be able to resist biting off your own tongue." When Chu Xinyan heard how horrifying Xiao Chen's explanation was, she was somewhat afraid. She slowly placed the piece of wood in her mouth. When Xiao Chen saw the situation, he smiled faintly and said, "Can I ask Miss Xinyan a few questions?" "Just shake your head or nod your head to answer me." Chu Xinyan nodded her head. Xiao Chen asked, "Miss Xinyan's double eyelids, are they natural or acquired? Are you born with one eye and you shake your head the other day?" What a strange question. Chu Xinyan's face was filled with doubt. However, she still nodded her head. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and continued to ask, "Then Xinyan is really a natural beauty. There should be many guys chasing after her in the heavenly saber pavilion, right?" A blush appeared on Chu Xinyan's pale face. She looked like a pure little red flower in the depths of the mountains. She looked exceptionally pure. Although she was embarrassed, Chu Xinyan still nodded her head. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and continued asking, "With so many pursuers, has Miss Xinyan taken a fancy to any of them?" Have you ever had a passionate relationship with one of them? Xiao Chen's questions were getting more and more embarrassing. Chu Xinyan's neck was already red. This was the first time someone of the opposite sex was so direct, asking her such a question in front of her. She shook her head to indicate that she had not. Xiao Chen continued to ask such questions, slowly diverting Chu Xinyan's attention. His right hand had already unknowingly grasped the dagger hilt. Xiao Chen was extremely focused. He focused all his spiritual sense on the wound where the dagger was inserted. He carefully observed the taut flesh on the barb of the dagger. It's time, Xiao Chen thought to himself. It's time to be ruthless. Xiao Chen had a smile on his face as he said very sincerely, if that is the case, then Miss Xinyan has no experience with men. What kind of question is this? Lu Suifeng's jaw dropped. He did not expect Xiao Chen to ask such a perverted question. Chu Xinyan's mind also went blank. Her eyes revealed anger as she stared at Xiao Chen. It was like she wanted to cut him into 1,000 pieces. However, Xiao Chen could not be bothered with her. The instant he asked the question, he focused all his attention on the wound. He did not dare to be distracted. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense could feel Chu Xinyan's emotions fluctuating rapidly. The flesh on the barb of the dagger started to contract rapidly. Shua! Xiao Chen took advantage of this opportunity. When the barb of the dagger was completely squeezed out, he decisively pulled the dagger out. Blood spurted out and splattered all over Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chen quickly pressed on the acupoints in front of the wound. Only then did the blood stop spurting out. Looking at the smooth dagger, aside from blood, there was no flesh on it. Xiao Chen smiled in satisfaction. Chu Xinyan had not recovered her wits yet. She was distracted earlier and had almost forgotten about the dagger in her wound. The sudden intense pain caused her to frown. Her facial features scrunched up as she bit the piece of wood in her mouth. After a long time, she finally caught her breath and spat out the piece of wood in her mouth. Thinking of the earlier question, she could not care about her weak body. She sent a slap at Xiao Chen and scolded, "Hooligan." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and easily grabbed Chu Xinyan's wrist. He used his palm to strike her neck heavily, causing her to faint. Lu Suifeng asked anxiously, "Yi Chen, what are you doing?" Xiao Chen explained, "She is extremely weak now. Her body will not be able to take it if she gets angry like that. It is best for her to rest first." Actually, Xiao Chen felt a little guilty in his heart. He was afraid that Chu Xinyan would continue to cause trouble. Oh! Lu Suifeng nodded and suddenly remembered the earlier matter. He asked hesitantly, "Brother Yi Chen, what did you mean by that question? I have to explain this matter to him. Otherwise, there will be a big misunderstanding." Xiao Chen said, "The design of this dagger is very vicious. There are barbs all over it. They are already deeply embedded into Chu Xinyan's flesh." Although she did not cry out, her body was actually in a state of high tension. Her muscles were very tense. If Xiao Chen could not think of a way to distract her, she would bleed twice as much when she draws the dagger. Chapter 162. After Xiao Chen said this, he paused for a while. He took out the dagger and said, "The surface of the dagger would not be as smooth as it is now. At the very least, a large piece of flesh would come out. I'm afraid she would be in so much pain that she would bite through the wood." Lu Suifeng thought for a while and felt that what Xiao Chen said was reasonable. His expression turned warmer as he said, "Yi Chen, thank you. Not only did you help me retrieve the ice crystal flower, you even saved Chu Xinyan. Xinyan must still be misunderstanding you. I'll help you explain later." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and patted Lu Suifeng's shoulder, "Don't say that. I received so much care from elder sister Ruyue in Qingyan Peak. Doing this is something I should do. As for explaining or not, there is no need. After all, her situation is more or less recovered. I am not familiar with her, so it is fine to take the blame." After Xiao Chen spoke, he took out a blood-replenishing pill and a roll of bandages from his universe ring. This bandage was something he had bought for himself after he was injured by the ice ape last time, just in case. The bandages were coated with good quality medicine. They were much more effective than ordinary bandages. Xiao Chen handed the bandages and medicinal pills to Lu Suifeng and said, "Go and bandage her wounds." Lu Suifeng received the bandages and medicinal pills and gestured around Chu Xinyan a few times. However, he did not know how to do it. After a while, he said with a flushed face, "Brother Yi Chen, you should do it. I really have no experience in this." "Damn, you just told me to be more decisive. Now that it's your turn, you are shrugging." Xiao Chen said helplessly, "Aren't you chasing after her? This is such a good opportunity to show off, yet you are giving it to me. Are you kidding me?" Lu Suifeng said hesitantly, "Men and women should not touch each other. I'm afraid that when Xinyan wakes up, she will blame me." Normally, Lu Suifeng was very carefree. Now, he was acting like this. Xiao Chen felt impatient in his heart. He took the medicinal pills and bandages back. See law. This was not the first time Xiao Chen did this. He was very familiar with the process. In an instant, he tore off a long strip of the clothes around Chu Xinyan's wound. A large patch of snow-white skin was revealed. Xiao Chen had already trained his mental fortitude long ago. He took out a blood-replenishing pill and crushed it before applying it on her skin. Then, he lifted Chu Xinyan's arm and bandaged it up. Done. After tying the bandage, Xiao Chen got up and said faintly. After doing all this, Xiao Chen started to collect the spoils of war. He actually found another 50 inferior-grade spirit stones on Yan Tianjing's body. In addition to the inferior-grade spirit stones from the 7 Biyun Peak disciples, Xiao Chen had a total of more than 200 inferior-grade spirit stones. When Xiao Chen was tidying up Song Qianhe's universe ring, aside from some medicinal pills and spirit stones, he unexpectedly discovered the 3 flowing cloud images martial technique. Xiao Chen gave half of the spirit stones to Lu Suifeng. However, Lu Suifeng insisted on not taking it. He said that he was already very satisfied with the ice crystal flower. Furthermore, these people were all killed by Xiao Chen. It was not reasonable for him to take more spirit stones. Xiao Chen was helpless. He symbolically gave him 10 spirit stones before Lu Suifeng was willing to take it. After that, Xiao Chen started to clean up the battlefield. He burned all the corpses on the ground with his purple thunder true fire. When Xiao Chen saw the flame cloud colts not far away, he noticed that these spirit beasts did not scatter. Xiao Chen was afraid that he might have left some traces behind. So he could only kill all these valuable flame cloud colts. After looking at the unconscious Song Qianhe on the ground, Xiao Chen revealed a look of disgust. He kicked him and sent him hanging from a tree branch at the side. After doing all this, Xiao Chen walked over to Lu Suifeng and said, "Chu Xinyan needs to pick those herbs. There is no time to waste. I will help her pick them. When she wakes up, we will leave immediately." Lu Suifeng thought for a while and said, "I don't remember very clearly. She only thought I said it once." There was ice heart grass, hidden frost flower, frost fruit, and there seemed to be purple snow lotus. They were all rank 5 herbs. They were not hard to find. Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, "Take care of her first. When I return, we will leave immediately." After Xiao Chen spoke, he quickly left the place, disappearing from Lu Suifeng's vision. After a while, he stopped on top of a large tree. The spirit core in Xiao Chen's spiritual sense quickly extended out. Instantly, all the surrounding herbs appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. There were too many herbs. Xiao Chen started to give instructions, eliminating all the herbs that were not rank 5. After that, he only left about 100 rank 5 herbs in his sea of consciousness. This way, it would be much easier to find them. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and revealed a faint smile. He had already found where the ice heart grass was distributed. There were rank 4 spirit beasts, frost snakes, in that area. Xiao Chen thought for a while and came up with a countermeasure. It was just a rank 4 spirit beast, there was no need to spend too much effort on it. On the other side, as Xiao Chen was doing his best to pick the herbs, Chu Xinyan woke up earlier than expected. The main reason was because Xiao Chen had underestimated Chu Xinyan's strength. Furthermore, because her body was too weak, he did not deal a heavy blow. Chu Xinyan slowly woke up. She felt dizzy and dizzy. After a long time, she slowly woke up. She looked at the bandages on her chest. Her pretty face immediately turned red. She said to Lu Suifeng, "Suifeng, who tore my clothes?" Lu Suifeng was startled. He was afraid that Chu Xinyan would misunderstand him. He quickly distanced himself. "Brother Yi Chen was the one who tied it up for you. I'm not very good at this." Chu Xinyan revealed a sullen expression as she struggled to sit up. She leaned against a tree and said, "This Yi Chen. I originally thought he was just a smooth talker. I did not expect him to be such a lecher. He does not care about propriety or honor. No wonder senior sister Ling scolded him as a lecher." Lu Suifeng felt ashamed in his heart. Seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, he quickly repeated what Xiao Chen had explained to him to Chu Xinyan. After Chu Xinyan heard it, she thought about it for a long time. She knew that what Xiao Chen said made sense. Knowing that he had misunderstood Xiao Chen, he had an awkward expression on his face. However, he did not want to admit defeat. He said, That doesn't mean he could just casually tear a girl's clothes. Furthermore, he said such vulgar words." Bang! Xiao Chen's figure suddenly landed on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. He was surprised to see Chu Xinyan awake. He said in astonishment, "When did you wake up? You need to sleep for at least 10 hours. Otherwise, your body will take a long time to recover." Seeing Xiao Chen suddenly appear, Chu Xinyan's face turned even redder. Xiao Chen looked at Lu Suifeng, and the two of them exchanged glances. Xiao Chen understood what was going on. He could not help but sigh in his heart. This matter was nothing in his original world. However, it was so troublesome in this world. He tossed a bottle of blood-replenishing pills to Chu Xinyan and said, "If you insist on not sleeping, then take this medicine for 3 days. Take it orally and apply it externally. Take it once a day." After Xiao Chen spoke, he waved his hand and passed the herbs he had picked to Chu Xinyan. A silver warship flew out from his right eye and he jumped onto it. Lu Suifeng supported Chu Xinyan and followed. When Xiao Chen saw the two of them board, he immediately controlled the warship to fly towards the entrance of Evil Wind Valley. After a while, Chu Xinyan organized the herbs. She discovered that they were all the herbs she needed, not a single one was missing. She walked behind Xiao Chen and thanked him in a soft voice. Xiao Chen smiled embarrassedly and said, "There is no need to thank me. We are even now." He thought about his actions carefully and felt that there were indeed a lot of things that were not appropriate. Although his actions were done with good intentions, it was inappropriate to say those words to a girl. This was probably the reason why Xiao Chen helped her pick the herbs. In the end, he wanted to make it up to her. "That's right, Suifeng. Are our 3 horses fine?" Xiao Chen changed the topic. Lu Suifeng said, "They are fine. If we leave, the people there will continue to take care of them for us. When we have time, we can come back to collect them." The journey was silent. Xiao Chen did not say anything after that. He piloted the silver warship and raised its speed to the limit. It turned into a silver bolt of lightning as it flew through the sky. When they could see Lingyun mountain range, Xiao Chen slowed down. There were countless restrictions of various sizes in the sky above the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. If it were not for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's warship and spirit pet, they would not be able to barge in even if they had 9 lives. Naturally, Xiao Chen would not make such a mistake. When they neared the foot of the mountain, they slowly landed the silver warship. Then, the 3 of them headed for Lingyun mountain range. After entering the mountain, Lu Suifeng wanted to send Chu Xinyan back. Xiao Chen returned to Qingyun Peak alone. At this moment, it was nearing dusk. By the time Xiao Chen rushed to Qingyun Peak, night had already fallen. Xiao Chen had experienced a lot of things today. He felt incredibly fatigued. After he entered his room, he immediately went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Xiao Chen vaguely heard a series of violent knocks on his door, startling Xiao Chen awake. Xiao Chen opened his eyes unwillingly. He was in a bad mood as he opened the door. He called out, "Who is it? Are you not letting me sleep? Pu Si." A sharp killing chi covered the sky and earth. It startled Xiao Chen to the point where he was no longer sleepy. He suddenly woke up and quickly retreated. A small saber flashing with a cold light brushed past his nose. "Are you awake? Do you still want to sleep?" Naturally, aside from Lu Riyue, there was no one else who could use such a valiant method to chase away his sleepiness. Xiao Chen looked at Lu Riyue, who had a cold expression and a grave expression. He asked carefully, "Elder sister Riyue, what happened? Why did you wake me up in the middle of the night?" Lu Riyue's eyes turned slightly red. She said angrily, "You still have the cheek to say that? After such a big thing happened, you did not even say anything to me before lying down and sleeping. Do you not respect me, your master?" Xiao Chen had never seen Lu Riyue so angry before. Although she had a bad temper in the past, it was different from today's situation. Aside from being angry, Lu Riyue also seemed a little sad. Her tone was filled with disappointment. Xiao Chen quickly thought of why Lu Riyue was angry. He explained, "Elder sister Riyue, I feel that I have already dealt with the matters in Evil Wind Valley. There are no more problems." Chapter 163. Suddenly, a pig's head appeared beside Xiao Chen. It said in a trembling voice, "Yi Chen, quickly apologize to my sister. She knows everything." The sudden appearance of a pig's head startled Xiao Chen. After he looked carefully, he discovered that it was a human face that had been beaten swollen. Xiao Chen looked for a long time but could not recognize this person. "Who are you?" "Wu. I am Lu Suifeng." Lu Suifeng's mouth was swollen as he stuttered. He was crying in his heart. Even Xiao Chen could not recognize him. When he went out tomorrow, it would be over for him. Xiao Chen felt ashamed in his heart. He tried to explain for Lu Suifeng, "Elder sister Riyue, actually, for the sake of retrieving the ice crystal flower, that was my idea. It has nothing to do with brother Suifeng." Lu Riyue shook her head, "You are not in the wrong. The one in the wrong is Suifeng. He was careless in the past and exposed his whereabouts. Furthermore, he even brought an unrelated person with him. We had to obtain the ice crystal flower. Even if we had to offend Biyun Peak, we had to get it back. You were able to help Qingyun Peak retrieve the lost ice crystal flower. Not only were you not in the wrong, you also performed a meritorious deed. However, I do not understand. After such a big thing happened, why did you not tell me immediately? Do you know how serious this matter is?" Xiao Chen felt guilty in his heart. He said in a soft voice, "I thought that after Song Qian had consumed the medicinal pill and destroyed all the evidence, it would not be a big deal." Lu Riyue smiled coldly, "You are too naive. That little vixen is the same. Let's not talk about whether there is an antidote for a medicinal pill that causes a person to lose their memories for a day. Even if there is no antidote, he will only forget today's memories. If he had planned this from the start, even if he forgot today's events, he would be able to deduce who snatched the ice crystal flower based on where he was." Xiao Chen's back broke out in a cold sweat. Why did he think of this? He thought that as long as Song Qianhe forgot today's events, there would not be any problems. Now, it looks like he thought too simply. Lingyun Mountain Range, Biyun Peak, a place with extremely dense spiritual energy. This was the peak where all the spiritual energy in Biyun Peak gathered. It was also one of the 7 branches of the underground spirit vein in the entire Lingyun Mountain Range. It could be said to be one of the places with the most abundant spiritual energy in the Great Qin Nation. Cultivating on it would allow one to absorb spiritual energy 4 or 5 times faster than a regular person. However, there were only a few people in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion who could enjoy such treatment. An old man sat cross-legged on a boulder at the peak of the mountain. The spiritual chi in the surroundings was like a mist, constantly pouring into his body. Wisps of green smoke rose from his forehead. This person was the peak master of Bien Peak, Song Quebec. His cultivation had already reached the peak of Martial King, and he already had 1 foot in the Martial Monarch realm. 20 years ago, many of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's elders had died. An expert like Song K was now one of the top 10 in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Pooh! 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 The sound of hurried footsteps could be heard, and a figure quickly rushed over from the foot of the mountain. He carried a thick saber on his back. When he was about 10 meters away from the old man, he slowly stopped. He had an extremely nervous expression on his face. When Song K felt this person, he slowly opened his eyes. There was a gleam in his eyes as he looked at the person. He frowned slightly and said unhappily, "Gongming, didn't I tell you not to disturb me for the next half a month?" This person called Gongming was Song K's last disciple. Although he was not a true inheritor of Bien Peak, his status and position were much lower than a true inheritor's. In the entire Bien Peak, aside from the elders, he was the only one who dared to disturb Song K's cultivation at this moment. Zhao Gongming felt somewhat nervous. He said softly, replying to Master, "Someone from the main hall sent news earlier. They said that the aura of the life medallion that junior brother left in the main hall is extremely weak." It seems, Song K's expression turned grave. He said sullenly, "Seems like what?" Zhao Gongming braced himself and said, "It seems like his life could be in danger at any moment." Bang! Song K suddenly stood up and the rock he was sitting on suddenly shattered, turning into countless fragments. When the wind blew, the fragments turned into powder and were carried away by the wind. A surging killing intent flashed past in a flash. Song K quickly hid his emotions and said, "When did this happen? Where did Qianhe go? Who did he go with? Tell me in detail." Before Zhao Gongming came, he had already made some inquiries. At this moment, he reported everything in detail. Yesterday, junior brother brought 6 Bien Peak disciples. They were all medial grade martial grand masters and above to Evil Wind Valley. The news I heard was that Lu Ryue needed the ice crystal flower in Evil Wind Valley to use as an ingredient to save people. I am not sure where junior brother got this news from, but he brought people to Evil Wind Valley in advance. Since then, there has been no news of him. A cold light flashed in Song K's eyes. He said coldly, "Lu Ryue. You better pray that nothing happens to her. Otherwise, I will destroy Qingyun Peak completely. Come, let's go to Saber City." In Saber City's city lord's residence, Gu Yunbin carefully listened to Zhao Gongming's narration. After that, he said to Song K, "Brother Song, don't be anxious. I will arrange for people to search for your son." Song K cupped his hands and said, "I will have to trouble City Lord Gu." There were spies from Saber City within a radius of a few hundred kilometers. Going to Evil Wind Valley to find a person was not a difficult matter for Gu Yunbin. After 2 hours, there was a result. An outer disciple quickly walked in and said, reporting to City Lord, "We have found senior brother Song in Evil Wind Valley. Should we bring him back?" Song K said, "Don't bring him back. Bring me to the scene immediately. I want to see who is so daring." In Evil Wind Valley, Song K looked at Song Qianhe, who had been dragged down from the tree. Rage burned in his eyes. Song Qianhe's face was covered in shoe prints. He did not look like a human anymore. The few Bien Peak disciples beside him quickly cleaned up the blood on Song Qianhe's body. Then, they fed him medicinal pills and bandaged him. Then, they used their essence to treat his injuries. After a while, Song Qianhe slowly woke up. When he saw the people in front of him, he did not understand the situation. He asked curiously, "Father, senior brother, why are you here? Where am I? Damn, why is it so painful?" The moment Song Qianhe said that, he discovered that his lips were in extreme pain. Only then did he realize that he was severely injured. There were bandages all over his body. What's going on? Where are Xiao Jiao and the others? How did I become like this? Who did this? Song Qianhe did his best to remember. However, he could not remember how he became like this. Forget worry pill. Gu Yunbin and Song Ke exchanged glances. They both had an answer in their hearts. The two of them walked behind Song Qianhe and stretched out their right hands. Pure and surging essence entered Song Qianhe's body. Pooh! The essence moved quickly in Song Qianhe's body. Soon, it found the medicinal pill in his dantian. The two of them exerted force at the same time. Song Qianhe opened his mouth and spat out a green liquid onto the ground. Gu Yunbin withdrew his hand and said, if another day had passed, the medicinal energy of this forget worry pill would have completely permeated his body. At that time, even if a martial sage made a move, it would be useless. Since your young master is fine, I will take my leave first. In the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, only one person had the forget worry pill. The matter of Song Qianhe being attacked was incomparably complicated. It involved the internal strife of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Gu Yunbin did not want to get involved in this matter, so he took his leave first. Song Ke did not stop him. He said, this song owes the city lord a favor. I will repay it in the future. After Gu Yunbin led the people of Saber City away, Song Qianhe completely remembered what happened yesterday. His eyes were filled with hatred. Yi Chen, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. In Qingyun Peak, Xiaochen had not slept since he was woken up last night. The pig-faced Lu Suifeng beside him said, Sis, it is not as serious as you think, right? Lu Ruyue smiled coldly, I think you have been bewitched by that woman. You have lost your intelligence. Just wait, the people from Biyun Peak will definitely come before sunset. Xiaochen felt slightly worried in his heart. This matter was mostly his idea. He said, Elder Sister Ruyue, if these people really come, you can push all the responsibility to me. I am well aware of it. At worst, I will just leave the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. When Lu Ruyue heard this, she smiled gently. Her charming face revealed a gentle expression, don't you want to learn listening to the sword and communicating with it? When Xiaochen heard this, he was stunned. During his time in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, he had asked around in his spare time. His understanding of listening to the sword and communicating with it had deepened. He discovered that it was almost impossible to grasp listening to the sword and communicating with it. Lu Ruyue took the lunar shadow saber from Xiaochen's hands and drew it out with a huang-dang sound. A cold glint flowed on the black blade, and traces of electricity slowly leaped about. She pointed the saber at the sky. When the sunlight shone on the saber, it gave off a faint glow. The streamlined saber was filled with a boundless beauty at this moment. Lu Ruyue looked at it seriously and muttered, You are doing this for this saber, right? If you just leave, don't you want to undo the seal in the saber? Xiaochen thought of the arrogance sealed in the saber. He felt dispirited. If he could not learn listening to the sword and communicating with it, he might not be able to undo the seal in his life. You don't have to worry about the matter of Biyun Peak. I said it before, the fault lies with Suifeng, not you. You have done well. I only resent you for not discussing such a big matter with me. Elder Sister Ruyue, I. Xiaochen felt that the words were stuck in his throat, but he could not say them. Lu Ruyue smiled brilliantly. Her pretty face was like a flower, she was like a fairy from the mountains, filled with a special charm. Don't say any more, I forgive you. Remember, don't do it again. Today, I will borrow your lunar shadow saber. Wang! Lu Ruyue swung the lunar shadow saber in the air. The saber buzzed continuously in the air. Suddenly, it released an intense electric light. It was as resplendent as the sun, dazzling and dazzling. At this moment, the rank 6 Thunder Rock demonic core merged with the saber broke through its previous restraints. The aura of a peak martial king spread out without restraint. An ear-piercing thunder roar came from the saber. It was like a thunder rock leaped out from the saber and roared angrily. A visible ripple spread out in the air. Xiao Chen and Lu Suifeng, who were behind Lu Ruyue, felt a huge pressure. It was like their shoulders were bearing a weight of 10,000 tons, it was incomparably painful. Chapter 164. This is a superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Lu Suifeng exclaimed in astonishment. This was a true superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. It was only a step away from becoming a subdivine weapon. The Tianlu continent had not seen a heaven-ranked spirit weapon for several hundred years. He did not expect to see a heaven-ranked spirit weapon here. Furthermore, it was a superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Xiao Chen's heart was filled with shock as well. He could not understand how Lu Ruyue was able to recover the lunar shadow saber to heaven-ranked. Lu Ruyue held the lunar shadow saber and stood there proudly. Her clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. She looked down the mountain and said indifferently, "Let's go, they are here." Lu Ruyue sheathed her saber and the aura of the lunar shadow saber disappeared. She led Xiao Chen and Lu Suifeng down the mountain quickly. No one said anything, their expressions were extremely grave. When they reached the foot of the mountain, they saw a group of cultivators rushing towards Qingyun Peak aggressively. They did not hide their killing qi at all. They left a trail of dust behind them, startling countless birds. When they got closer, everyone could clearly see the appearance of the people. The person leading them was the last disciple of Bian Peak's peak master, Song Ke, Zhao Gongming. Behind him were several Bian Peak elders. They were all martial saints. Song Qianhe, whose head was wrapped like a mummy, was in the middle of the group. Xiao Chen counted carefully. Including Zhao Gongming, there were 7 martial saints and 10 martial grandmasters. Among them, Zhao Gongming was the strongest. He was a medial grade martial saint. The other martial saints were only inferior grade martial saints. It was not strange for there to be so many inferior grade martial saints. After reaching martial saint, every step forward was extremely difficult. Many people would remain in the inferior grade martial saint realm for their entire lives. Hence, people like Lu Ruyue, who reached peak martial saint at the age of 24, were terrifying. Even so, Xiao Chen was worried for Lu Ruyue. There were so many martial saints. Although their cultivations were lower than Lu Ruyue's, their numbers could make up for the difference. Song Ke hid himself in the clouds in the sky. He looked at Lu Ruyue and the others with a sinister gaze. Song Qianhe's life was not in danger. Furthermore, there was no concrete evidence to prove that the dead Bian Peak disciples were killed by Xiao Chen and Lu Suifeng. As a peak lord, it was not suitable for him to show himself at this moment. He could just let the younger generation cause a ruckus. It would be best if they could force the one at the top of the mountain out. Song Ke looked at the towering peak of Qingyun Peak and muttered, "Old eccentric Lu has been hiding on the peak for decades. Whether he is dead or alive, he should at least come out. Right now, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is lacking in manpower. You do not wish to see a little girl become the pavilion master, right?" Song Ke's gaze pierced through the boundless space, as if he could see the peak of the mountain. Ever since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's great tribulation 20 years ago, the old pavilion master had passed away. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion no longer had a pavilion master. The old pavilion master's daughter, Ling Liusu, became the young pavilion master. The elders' assembly managed the Heavenly Saber Pavilion together. As the saying went, a family could not go without a master, a nation could not go without a ruler. The danger of such a situation was self-evident to the development and prestige of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. However, before the old pavilion master died, he did not leave behind a clear will. Furthermore, there was more than one person in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion who was qualified to become the pavilion master. Due to all the compromises, it resulted in the current situation. The old pavilion master's daughter would inherit the position of Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master. The one who was most dissatisfied with this was Song Quebec. Although his strength was still far from those old monsters, he was still qualified to inherit the position of pavilion master. He was the youngest. That's right, he was the youngest among the peak martial kings in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He was only 50 years old. After he advanced to Martial King, he would have no problem living to 200 years old. His resentment for the position of Pavilion Master was the strongest among all the peak lords. All along, he had been looking for an opportunity to swallow up Qingyun Peak. At that time, he would have the strength of two factions. He would have a greater say in the Elders' Assembly. Song Qianhe's pursuit of Lu Ruyue was mostly due to Song Quebec. Song Ke had turned a blind eye to Song Ke's underhanded methods and acquiesced to them. Actually, Song Ke had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. If it were not for the apprehension in his heart, he would have used forceful methods long ago. Song Ke looked at the peak and entered deep thought. At the foot of the peak, Lu Ruyue took the initiative to speak first. Zhao Gongming, what are you trying to do by bringing a bunch of trash and old men here? Before Zhao Gongming could speak, Song Qianhe, whose face was covered in bandages, said angrily, Lu Ruyue, your disciple killed 8 of my Bian Peak disciples. According to the sect rules, you have to hand him over. Otherwise, you will be considered an accomplice. Lu Ruyue frowned and a murderous intent shot out from her black eyes. She glared at Song Qianhe, scaring him into taking a few steps back. Lu Ruyue mocked, a piece of trash like you is not embarrassed to be a true inheritor of Bian Peak. You are already like this. You can imagine how strong the ordinary disciples of Bian Peak are. Who knows which Tom, Dick, or Harry killed them? When Zhao Gongming saw Lu Ruyue being so unyielding, he did not get angry. Instead, he rejoiced. He said, Senior Sister Lu, don't change the topic. 8 Bian Peak disciples did die. Furthermore, junior brother Song saw them being killed by Yi Chen. As for whether he was the one who killed them or not, we will hand him over to the law enforcement hall. Lu Ruyue removed the golden identity token from her waist and said in a deep voice, look at the identity token in my hand clearly. I am the Peak Master of Qingyun Peak, not your senior sister. Whether Bian Peak disciples died or not, even if the law enforcement hall's people come, they will not be able to take them away from me without any evidence. Zhao Gongming smiled coldly and said, Qingyun Peak is just a faction with only one disciple. Are you not embarrassed to use your status to suppress me? Lu Ruyue smiled. Her smile was very beautiful, causing the surrounding people to look at her. Their minds became dazed for a moment. Even if there is only one person in Qingyun Peak, it is not something trash like you can laugh at. Right after she spoke, Lu Ruyue had already rushed forward. She left behind afterimages in the air and arrived before Zhao Gongming. Zhao Gongming did not panic. Instead, he was secretly delighted. Even if there was no evidence, as long as Lu Ruyue made the first move to injure someone, their actions this time would not leave any room for others to talk about. However, he soon stopped smiling. A resplendent light lit up and the lunar shadow saber was drawn with a huang-dang sound. The aura of a rank 6 demonic beast, which was equivalent to a peak martial king, surged towards him. Even with Zhao Gongming's strength as a medial-grade martial saint, his breathing actually became hurried before this overwhelming aura. His originally smooth movements became sluggish for a moment. Zhao Gongming gave up on drawing his saber. He controlled his body and quickly retreated. However, this saber was simply too fast. Furthermore, it borrowed the might of the heavenly weapon. The saber light still left a long wound in front of Zhao Gongming. The wound was not deep, but as blood spurted out, it quickly dyed the clothes in front of his chest red. The battle could start at any moment. After the remaining 7 martial saints recovered from their momentary daze, they quickly attacked Lu Ruyue. This was a battle between martial saints. These martial grandmasters could not interfere. Saber chi flew everywhere and figures flashed about. Xiao Chen and the others could only see some blurry figures. The range of the battle grew larger and larger. Occasionally, there would be cries coming from the battlefield. An inferior-grade martial saint of Bian Peak cried out miserably as his arm flew off. Everyone was fighting with all their might. Lu Ruyue did not show any mercy. She fought with her life on the line. Whenever her opponent left a wound on her body, she would immediately counterattack tenfold, not retreating at all. Using the might of the heavenly weapon, Lu Ruiyue was not at a disadvantage in terms of aura. Instead, the 8 martial saints of Biyun Peak became more and more fearful as they fought. Occasionally, someone would lose an arm or a large piece of flesh. A few strands of saber chi flew toward Xiao Chen and Lu Suifeng. Xiao Chen used his palm as a saber and executed drawing the saber. With a bang, the strands of saber chi were reduced to nothing. Lu Suifeng said anxiously, "Yi Chen, what should we do? If this goes on, even if Sis can obtain victory, she will be severely injured. The other side still has 10 martial grand masters who have not made a move. We are not a match for them. Don't rush me, I'm thinking of a way." Naturally, Xiao Chen was able to think of the problem that Lu Suifeng could think of. He looked at Song Qianhe, who was in the crowd, and thought very quickly. Song Qianhe looked coldly at Lu Ruiyue. He did not care much about the casualties in the battle. Aside from Zhao Gongming, the rest of these martial saints had been stuck at inferior grade martial saint for many years. This time, Xiao Chen had brought them here to send them to their deaths. The true elites of Biyun Peak had not come. Even if they all died, he would not feel any heartache. Biyun Peak could afford to waste their resources, unlike Qingyun Peak, which only had Lu Ruiyue. As long as she fell, the others could be dealt with easily. Heaven-ranked spirit weapon? It looks like this operation is going to fail. Should I make a move? Song Ke looked at the battle below from the clouds. He frowned slightly, he could not make up his mind. In the battle, Lu Ruiyue took advantage of an inferior grade martial saint's opening and pierced the air with her lunar shadow saber. She stabbed the saber into this person's heart. Her right hand trembled, and a surging essence flowed along her arm and into the saber. Boom! With a loud bang, that person's body exploded into countless pieces, shattering into pieces. Blood sprayed out in the air like rain, slowly falling down. Lu Ruiyue's decisiveness and cold-bloodedness caused the surrounding cultivators to tremble involuntarily. Although they were not afraid of death, when they saw such a cruel way of dying, they could not help but feel a deep fear in their hearts. This is too ruthless. She did not care at all, killing as she pleased. Is she really not afraid of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's rules? Everyone could not help but think this in their hearts. Taking advantage of the moment when everyone was distracted, Lu Ruiyue did not stop moving. She swept her saber horizontally and chopped an inferior grade martial saint beside her in half. Lu Ruiyue, you! Don't go overboard! Zhao Gongming shouted hoarsely. In an instant, 2 inferior grade martial saints died miserably at Lu Ruiyue's hands. Lu Ruiyue's reply was an even more ferocious attack. She held her saber with both hands, and her entire body was covered in blood. She was like a crazed demon, like an evil spirit that came out of hell. She did not care about the wounds on her body. Ka Xie! Ka Xie! Chapter 165. Xiao Chen's eyes were bloodshot as he clenched his right fist tightly. His fingertips pierced deep into his flesh, causing blood to flow out. He could not remember the last time he was so angry. I hate it. To think that I had to let a girl risk her life to protect me. Xiao Chen felt his heart bleeding. Biyun Peak Song Qianhe, even if I have to face the boundless pursuit of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Xiao Chen, swear to tear you into pieces. I will return today's humiliation tenfold in the future. 2 people fell in an instant. The situation immediately tilted in Lu Ruiyue's favor. The number of wounds on her body increased continuously, but she did not fall. Her face was already covered in blood, it was a horrifying sight. The remaining martial saints revealed fear in their hearts. They started to move very carefully, hoping to protect themselves. However, this caused them to die even faster. Lu Ruiyue did not care about the wounds on her body. She used her saber in exchange for a life. Pu Ci. One of them left a long wound on Lu Ruiyue's body. Blood spurted out. Another martial saint chased after her. Lu Ryue did not care about her pursuers or the incoming attack. She stabbed her saber into the body of an inferior-grade martial saint. Her essence erupted and immediately shattered all the bones in his body. Ca. The attack of the person behind her left another wound on Lu Ryue's back. However, Lu Ryue did not seem to feel it. She grabbed the weapon of that person with her left hand and turned around, creating a strong wind. Under this person's horrified gaze, his head was directly chopped off. Soon, only Zhao Gongming was left standing in the field. The remaining 7 martial saints all fell to the ground. They died without a complete corpse. There was not a single complete corpse. Blood flowed all over the ground. The pungent smell of blood was nauseating. When Zhao Gongming saw the hellish scene in front of him, his right hand, which was holding his saber, could not help but tremble. He thought to himself, this Lu Ryue is too ruthless. She is ruthless to herself and even more ruthless to her enemies. Do I have to risk my life against her? I am not like these old men. I still have a bright future ahead of me. I am already a medial-grade martial saint at the age of 30. My future is bright and I have great potential. Such a thought appeared in Zhao Gongming's mind. After a while, this thought spread like wildfire, getting out of hand. If she, Lu Ryue, wants to risk her life, why should I, Zhao Gongming, do the same? How foolish! Lu Ryue smiled coldly to herself. With one glance, she could tell that Zhao Gongming was afraid. She casually wiped the blood off her face. Xiao Chen grasped the saber hilt again. The blood in his hand flowed down the saber blade and dripped onto the ground. The black blade of the lunar shadow saber was dyed scarlet, making it look like a blood saber. It looked very strange. Kill! Lu Ryue shouted and an overwhelming killing chi pressed down on Zhao Gongming. Xiao Chen's figure turned into a blurry white figure in the air. The electric light on the lunar shadow saber crackled. It was boundlessly resplendent and dazzling. When Zhao Gongming saw Lu Ryue flying over, he clenched his teeth and sent out a saber light with his saber. Their figures changed rapidly in the air. At first, everyone could still see their figures, but in the end, their speed became faster and faster. He could only see 2 white shadows swaying non-stop, and there was also the light of lightning blooming in the air. Metallic clangs rang out continuously as saber chi flew in all directions. The rocks that came into contact with the saber chi immediately shattered into countless pieces. The surroundings of the two turned into rubble in the blink of an eye. Bang! Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky. Xiao Chen's heart tightened. He quickly looked and discovered that it was Zhao Gongming. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Boom! Lu Ryue descended from the air and kicked Zhao Gongming's chest heavily. Zhao Gongming's injuries worsened. He tasted something sweet in his throat and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Zhao Gongming landed heavily on the ground with a bang. He looked at Lu Ryue, who was getting closer to him. His eyes were filled with horror. Trash like you dares to laugh at my Qingyun Peak for not having anyone? Lu Ryue walked over to Zhao Gongming but did not make a move. A faint aura locked onto her in the sky. As long as she made a move, she would suffer a destructive blow. Lu Ryue looked at the clouds above her head and the corner of her lips curled up in a mocking smile. The setting sun was like blood. When it shone on her, she looked very miserable. After hiding for so long, are you not embarrassed? Old fogey! Lu Ryue shouted and quickly drew the small saber at her waist. The saber spun quickly in her hand, creating an intense wind. A strong wind blew and kicked up a large amount of dust. Xiao Chen could not help but close his eyes. Kill! The spinning saber left Xiao Chen's hand and formed a berserk hurricane in the air. There was a sharp cold light in the hurricane. It whistled as it headed for the white clouds in the sky. Its aura was like a rainbow as it surged forward. The hurricane sped through the air and grew with the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a hurricane that was dozens of meters wide. It was very horrifying. Boom! There was a loud sound in the sky. The hurricane crashed into the white clouds in the sky. A clump of white fog appeared on the horizon, attracting everyone's attention. They did not understand why Lu Riyue attacked the white clouds in the sky for no reason. When the clouds scattered and everyone saw the scene in the sky, they were all astonished. Song Ke stood quietly in the sky. He held Lu Riyue's small saber in his right hand. There was no change in his expression, he was incomparably calm. He was like an old man in meditation. As he stood in the sky, his aura was withdrawn. He was as calm as flowing water. However, there was a natural might coming from his body. It made everyone feel insignificant. "Little girl, are you bullying my bee insect because there is no one around?" Song Ke snorted coldly. His voice was not loud, but it reverberated in the ears of Lu Riyue and the others. It caused the qi and blood in their bodies to surge. It was clear that this voice contained a high-level secret technique. Bo! Right after Song Ke spoke, he flicked his finger. The small saber in his hand turned into a blur in the air. It gave off a bright light and broke through the air, creating a long shockwave as it headed for Lu Riyue. The small saber arrived in an instant. One breath ago, it was far away. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before Lu Riyue. The force of the saber created a strong wind. The bloody dust on the ground was picked up by the strong wind and scattered in all directions. In an instant, the dust filled the entire space. This was the strength of a peak martial king. With a gentle flick of his finger, there was such a shocking aura. Everywhere the light passed, it could topple mountains and split rocks. Dang! A clear clanging sound came from the flying dust, and after the dust settled, the sound was heard. After the dust settled, everyone saw Lu Riyue holding her saber horizontally in front of her, blocking the small saber descending from the sky. Blood leaked from the corner of her mouth. It was clear that she suffered internal injuries. The small saber spun continuously on the back of the lunar shadow saber. Lu Riyue held the saber hilt tightly with her right hand and placed her left hand on the saber. Even so, Lu Riyue continued to move backward. Her footsteps rubbed against the ground, giving off a rustling sound. The situation was dire. If Lu Riyue could not hold on, the small saber would pierce through her chest. The small saber would pierce through Lu Riyue's chest. After that, she would definitely die. Xiao Chen felt very anxious. However, at this moment, he could only worry, there was nothing he could do. Lu Riyue was currently in a weak equilibrium. Although it was dangerous, her life was not in danger. If he helped, this equilibrium would be broken. Without the strength of a martial king, he would not be able to maintain this equilibrium. If he helped, he would only cause Lu Riyue to die even faster. Who? Just at this moment, a white dragon suddenly came out of Lu Riyue's body. The white dragon circled around Lu Riyue and roared at Song Ke in the sky. The dragon roared in all directions, it was vast and boundless. A huge might surged toward Song Quebec. Song Ke frowned slightly. His body paused in the air and moved slightly. The aura of the small saber immediately weakened. Lu Riyue took advantage of this opportunity and shouted. She swung her saber and flung away the small saber. Then, she stretched out her hand and caught the small saber that was about to fall. No wonder this small saber was so strong. It turned out that Song Ke left a strand of his qi in it. Only by breaking this strand of qi could she break this move. A peak martial king, a peak master, actually made such a ruthless move against a junior. This is too shameless, Xiao Chen cursed hatefully in his heart. The white dragon that suddenly appeared should be Lu Riyue's martial spirit. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would do such a thing. When Xiao Chen saw the white dragon return to Lu Riyue's body, he felt it was familiar. However, he could not remember where he had seen it before. When Song Ke saw that his move was broken, a trace of anger flashed on his face. Although he did not use his full strength in this move, it was still very strong. However, it was actually broken by a junior. Song Ke felt that he had lost face. He snorted coldly and his body descended from the sky with a boundless aura. He landed heavily on the ground, creating an intense shockwave that surged towards Lu Ruyue. At this moment, Lu Ruyue was already like an arrow at the end of its flight. How could she block the attack of a peak martial king? Her body was immediately knocked back by the shockwave. When Xiao Qin saw the situation, he quickly rushed forward and caught Lu Ruyue. He took out a blood-replenishing pill and fed it to Lu Ruyue without giving her any room to refuse. You are of my grandfather's generation, yet you dare to make a move against a junior. Don't you feel ashamed? Xiao Qin helped Lu Ruyue up and glared at Song Quebec. Before Song Ke could say anything, Song Qianhe, who was hiding in the crowd behind him, said, "What kind of status does my father have? Is it up to someone like you, who is not even worth dog shit, to speak to him like that?" Xiao Qin looked at Song Qianhe and smiled coldly. After failing to propose, you resorted to despicable methods. You want to use a life-saving medicine to threaten others. For someone to have a son like you, it is easy to imagine what kind of person your father is. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Anyone can teach this kind of person a lesson. Song Ke's face turned red. He had tacitly agreed to all the things that Song Qianhe had done. Although he knew he was in the wrong, it was not up to a junior to speak to him like that. A surging killing chi, the aura of a peak martial king, surged towards Xiao Qin without any fear. Song Ke's ice-cold face revealed a murderous intent. "Ignorant junior, do you dare to say another word?" The azure dragon martial spirit circled around Xiao Qin's body continuously. The pressure on Xiao Qin's body immediately decreased. He looked straight at Song Ke without any fear as he said loudly, "You have no respect for your old age. You have no sense of shame. You have no sense of propriety, righteousness, or honor." Chapter 166. Xiao Qin was prepared to die when he said these words. A bona fide peak martial king would not even need to use a tenth of his strength to easily kill Xiao Qin. However, ambition was important. Wasn't a man living in this world for the sake of pride? Xiao Qin did not care about his status and used his strength to attack his master. Furthermore, Lu Yueru was already severely injured, yet he still dared to make a move. At this moment, if Xiao Qin did not say anything, he would not have any backbone. What kind of man would he be? He might as well die. Song Ke's face was covered in frost. Ever since he became the peak master, he could not remember how many years it had been since someone dared to scold him like this. Furthermore, it was an insignificant inferior grade martial grand master. What a sharp tongue. Are you not afraid of biting your tongue? Go to hell. The moment he spoke, Song Ke's body started to turn blurry. He floated towards Xiao Qin like flowing water. Everywhere he passed, it was like he was flowing through a river. The blood on the ground was actually swept clean. 3 flowing cloud images. Xiao Qin thought to himself, when Song Ke executed this 3 flowing cloud images, it was like moving clouds and flowing water. There was no hesitation at all. Everything was natural and natural. It was like a gushing river, not giving off any sense of danger. If this was 1 day ago, Xiao Qin would definitely not be able to block Song Ke's 3 flowing cloud images at its peak. However, when Xiao Qin was in the dense forest the previous day, he suddenly gained enlightenment and entered the state of perfection like water. His understanding of the 3 flowing cloud images reached a level that no one before could understand. Xiao Qin gently tossed Lu Ruyue into Lu Suifeng's hands. His mind was calm as he did his best to recall the state he was in yesterday. At this moment, Song Ke did not seem to have any killing moves. However, Xiao Qin knew that if he did not enter the state he was in yesterday, he would immediately be killed by Song Quebec. At this critical moment of life and death, Xiao Qin instantly entered the state he was in yesterday. His entire being turned into a calm sea, without any waves. From an outsider's perspective, both of their figures had become extremely blurry. One of them was like a gushing river, while the other was like a calm ocean without any ripples. Boom! The river and the ocean collided. A surging shockwave spread out in all directions, like countless splashes of water. Bang! 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 Water splashed in the air and emitted violent explosions. It was like a tempestuous storm, deafening, continuous, and majestic. Song K took 3 steps back. His heart was filled with shock. Perfection like water was a state that could only be grasped in legends. How could he possibly know it? The huge force flowed into Xiao Chen's body. In an instant, Xiao Chen felt like he was going to explode. He felt Song's energy. In his sea of consciousness, the calm surface of the ocean that he had transformed into immediately stirred up waves after waves after waves of energy spread outwards. After Xiao Chen transformed into a sea, Chen's sea, the calm sea, Xiao, who was in a Chen's body. Xiao, the of the Xiao Chen. Chen. Of Chen, of Chen's of a Chen. Of a, Xiao. A Chen of Xiao of Chen of Chen. The group of people behind him could not understand either. A strange look flashed in Lu Ryue's eyes. There were many kinds of states. Listening to the sword and communicating with it was one of them. She, who had grasped the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it, could somewhat understand what was going on. If a person comprehended a certain state to its peak, they would have a huge advantage when fighting with someone else using the same martial technique. Lu Ryue had experienced this herself. Song K said coldly, "Perfection like water. I want to see how strong it is." Song K could not accept the pride of a peak martial king. He had practiced the 3 flowing cloud images for his entire life, yet he could not even compare to a junior. After Song K spoke, he turned into a gushing river, surging towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen frowned. He did not dare to be careless. He guarded his heart platform and materialized a boundless ocean. Perfection like water, water benefits all things but does not compete. Xiao Chen understood something in his heart. This 3 flowing cloud images was, in essence, a defensive and counterattacking martial technique. Forcefully materializing it into an offensive martial technique would only be putting the cart before the horse, neglecting the essentials. However, Song K did not care about this. He relied on his cultivation realm and continuously charged at Xiao Chen. There were loud sounds of raging waves. The surrounding air started to tremble. After the trembling, there was an unending chain of explosions. The surrounding crowd did not dare to get too close. They all retreated. Song K's raging waves kicked up huge waves one after another on the calm surface of the sea. The sound of the waves surged. It was incomparably terrifying. On the vast ocean, Xiao Chen was like a small boat drifting with the wind. He rose and fell with the waves. It looked like he would be swallowed up at any moment. However, after a while, this small boat did not get swallowed up. It continued to drift along with the waves, tossing and turning. Pooh! Song K retreated once again. He had already charged at Xiao Chen more than 100 times. Every time he used a huge force, it seemed like he was just a little short of exploding Xiao Chen. However, he did not succeed every time. This time, he completely lost his patience. His eyes revealed an extremely impatient expression. He waved his right hand and a thick saber flickering with a cold light appeared in his hand. Killing chi spread out. Song K had never wanted to kill a person as much as he did now. Furthermore, it was an inferior grade martial grand master that he would not even bother to look at normally. Mountain-splitting chop. Break for me. Song K shouted loudly. The light on his saber was withdrawn. There was nothing fancy about it. However, it carried an aura that could split mountains. He hacked at Xiao Chen and instantly broke through the formless ocean that Xiao Chen had turned into. Not good, Yi Chen is in danger. Seeing Song K give up on using the 3 flowing cloud images, Lu Ryue cried out in alarm. She wanted to go forward and help, but when she circulated the essence in her body, she could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood. She staggered and was about to fall backwards. Lu Suifeng quickly supported her. Lu Rui's blood-covered face revealed an expression of extreme dissatisfaction. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at Song Ke angrily. Finally, it seemed like she had made up her mind about something. She grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly with her right hand. Xiao Chen opened his eyes ferociously and shot out a bright light. He looked at Song Ke, who was moving at lightning speed, and that saber strike that could split mountains. Xiao Chen understood in his heart that he would not be able to block this saber strike. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. He would be chopped in half and die without a complete corpse. However, Xiao Chen did not intend to block it himself. He flicked his finger and the Eastern Emperor bell appeared from nowhere. It hovered above Xiao Chen's head. After a while, it turned into a huge bronze bell. For some unknown reason, he could no longer use the mysterious yellow qi in the Eastern Emperor bell. Xiao Chen decisively used the bronze bell to cover himself. With a thought, the Eastern Emperor bell immediately fell to the ground with a loud boom, covering Xiao Chen completely. Song Ke smiled coldly in his heart. His hands did not stop moving at all. You want to block a full-body strike with just a damaged secret treasure? Too naive. Boom! The full-powered strike of a peak martial king struck the Eastern Emperor bell violently. The Eastern Emperor bell gave off a melodious chime. The sound waves reverberated in the air. After that, before everyone's astonished gazes, the Bian Peak's peak master, a peak martial king, was knocked back like a cannonball. Song Ke felt his qi and blood surging, and he felt a sweetness in his throat, as if he was about to vomit blood. Song Ke quickly circulated his essence in the air, suppressing the blood. If he was forced to vomit blood by an inferior-grade martial grand master in front of a group of juniors, Song Ke might even have the thought of dying. However, Song Ke did not expect that his body was currently in the air. As he flew back rapidly, if he could not control his center of gravity, he might end up rolling on the ground. By the time he suppressed the qi and blood in his body and recovered his wits, it was already too late to change his center of gravity. There was a loud bang as he landed head first and rolled on the ground. After rolling 2 rounds, Song Ke stood up again. Song Ke's face was ashen, he was suffering in his heart. He was sent rolling on the ground by an inferior-grade martial master. This was even more embarrassing than vomiting blood. His desire to kill Xiao Chen was much stronger than before. There had never been such a person that gave Song Ke such a headache. In his life, he had killed countless martial saints and martial kings. He had fought in many tough battles. However, he had never been in such a sorry state before. He had already forgotten his purpose in coming here. He only wanted to tear Xiao Chen into pieces, to resolve the hatred in his heart. Seeing Xiao Chen hiding in the Eastern Emperor bell, Song Ke did his best to calm himself down and think carefully. Although the rebound of this secret treasure is strong, it is still within the limits of my control. Furthermore, this secret treasure is definitely a damaged secret treasure. As long as I focus my energy on one point and attack continuously, I will definitely be able to break this secret treasure. I can definitely break this secret treasure. After Song Ke made up his mind, he immediately leaped up and hacked at the Eastern Emperor bell. A huge rebound came. This time, Song Ke was prepared. He quickly spun in the air and after a while, the rebound dissipated into nothingness. Song Ke's figure flashed and he flew back to the Eastern Emperor bell. He hacked at the same spot as before. He did this repeatedly. In the blink of an eye, Song Ke hacked at least 100 times. The sound of the bell reverberated unceasingly, spreading throughout the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion like a sponge. When the many inner disciples of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion heard this sound, they all felt it was strange. They all curiously rushed over to the source of the sound. Xiao Chen, who was hiding in the Eastern Emperor bell, also felt extremely uncomfortable. That drawn-out bell chime nearly ruptured his eardrums. His internal organs were churning non-stop. He wanted to vomit, but he could not vomit anything. After hacking at the Eastern Emperor bell for a few hundred times, a small crack finally appeared on it. Song Ke's face lit up with joy and he suddenly leaped up. In the blink of an eye, he was more than 1,000 meters above the ground. He wanted to deal the final blow, to completely destroy this damn bell and pull Xiao Chen out and hack him into pieces. The bell suddenly stopped ringing. Xiao Chen felt it was strange. He used his spiritual sense to observe carefully and he instantly saw the crack on the bell. He could not help but feel some lingering fear. If this Eastern Emperor bell was really broken, with his true strength, he would not even be able to block a single move from Song Quebec. Never mind, since I am going to die anyway, why don't I give it my all? A resolute look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes as he watched Song Ke descend from the sky. Chapter 167. Suddenly, the Eastern Emperor bell soared into the air. Xiao Chen stretched out his right hand and grabbed the bottom of the Eastern Emperor bell. He shouted and swept it at Song Ke, who was charging at him. Song Ke was horrified. He had been attacking the Eastern Emperor bell all this time. However, when he saw that Xiao Chen did not react, he was already out of habit. Song Ke was thinking that he only needed one more attack to get Xiao Chen out. Xiao Chen had not expected Xiao Chen to charge at him with the bell in hand. Xiao Chen's rapidly descending body trembled. Before Xiao Chen could react, Xiao Chen sent him flying with a bang. The huge recoil caused Song Ke to fly back like he was swatting a fly. He vomited a mouthful of blood in the air and landed on the ground. Many of the inner disciples who had rushed over after hearing the bell had just stabilized themselves when they saw this inconceivable scene. An inferior grade martial Grand Master had sent a peak martial king flying back while vomiting blood. No one could figure out what was going on. This mouthful of blood was actually the qi and blood that Song Ke had been suppressing. From the first strike, Song Ke had not dissipated the recoil from the Eastern Emperor bell. He had only used his cultivation realm to suppress it. He had struck the Eastern Emperor bell for close to 1,000 times. The suppressed energy in his body had already reached a horrifying level. If he continued suppressing it for a long time, it would cause hidden injuries to his body. Hence, when Song Ke vomited this mouthful of blood, his body actually felt very refreshed. However, even though his body felt refreshed, his heart felt even more upset. Song Ke looked at the crowd that was still rushing over. He felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. He thought to himself that he had completely lost all his face today. A peak master was actually forced into such a sorry state by a junior. This joke was getting out of hand. As the saying goes, break a crutch and break a fall. Song Ke's emotions had completely calmed down. Since it had already come to this, as long as he could kill this person, there was no need to care about morality. When Song Ke saw Xiao Chen charging over with the bell, he knew the strangeness of the Eastern Emperor bell. He had already lost all his face, so he did not mind losing some more face. He did not choose to clash head-on. Relying on his advantage in speed, he quickly dodged Xiao Chen's attack. Then, everyone saw an incredible scene. An inferior-grade martial Grand Master used a damaged secret treasure to crush a peak martial king, forcing him to flee. It was a very impressive sight. Seeing the crowd pointing at him, Song Ke remained expressionless. He looked coldly at Xiao Chen and easily dodged Xiao Chen's attack. Xiao Chen also knew what Song Ke was thinking. He was waiting for Xiao Chen to exhaust his essence qi before dealing a fatal blow. In any case, he had already thrown caution to the wind. Xiao Chen also knew what the outcome would be. He held the Eastern Emperor bell and smiled as he chased. Song Ke, your father really knows how to name you. He knows that you lack morals, heart and calcium, so he gave you some. Why are you running? You are a bona fide peak master. You do not even dare to have a proper battle with me, an insignificant inferior grade martial Grand Master? Weren't you quite awe-inspiring just now? Why are you acting like a tortoise now? How long are you going to hide? I'll bear with it. Let's see how long you can shout for. Song Ke felt sullen in his heart. However, he did not fall for Xiao Chen's trick. If he attacked now, Xiao Chen would place the Eastern Emperor bell on his head. He could only think of another way to break the Eastern Emperor bell. At that time, the gains would not make up for the losses. Instead, it would be a waste of time. Xiao Qin might as well let him be pleased for now. When his essence ran out, Xiao Qin would torture him and make him kneel and beg for mercy, living a life worse than death. Who is this brat? How can he be so arrogant? To think he dares to speak to Song Ke like that. This brat seems to be Lu Rui's new disciple. He is called Yi Chen. He is only an inferior grade martial grand master. Lu Rui is already arrogant enough. I did not expect this brat to be even more arrogant than her. Indeed, the disciple is like the master. These Heavenly Saber Pavilion inner disciples had good judgment. Naturally, they would not be foolish enough to think that Xiao Qin could defeat a martial king and force Song Ke to flee. There had to be a reason for this that they did not know. Furthermore, Song Ke dodged very easily, he did not panic at all. Even so, everyone was filled with admiration for Xiao Qin's courage. If this brat survives today, his name will definitely shake the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It seems like the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has not had such a bustling event in a long time. Indeed, a disciple who just entered the sect a few months ago actually dares to challenge a peak master. In the history of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this is unprecedented and will not happen again. Although the Eastern Emperor Bell was damaged, it was still one of the peak secret treasures of the human race. As Xiao Qin controlled the Eastern Emperor Bell, his essence was depleting very quickly. The river in his dantian was slowly drying up. Xiao Qin thought to himself, I can't continue playing around. I have to run. Although it would be difficult to escape with the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Xiao Qin still had to give it a try. He could not just sit there and wait for death. Just as Xiao Qin was preparing to use the Eastern Emperor Bell to open a path and leave this place, the Eastern Emperor Bell in his hand suddenly trembled. It turned into a small, exquisite bell and landed in Xiao Qin's hand. Xiao Qin hated that he could not trample on this Eastern Emperor Bell until it smashed to smithereens. This was not the first time the Eastern Emperor Bell had failed. Every time it happened, it was at a crucial moment. Every time it happened, it was a life-threatening moment. When Song Ke saw the Eastern Emperor Bell suddenly disappear, he was stunned. He thought that Xiao Qin was playing a trick on him. When he saw Xiao Qin quickly flee, he came to his senses. He had finally endured to the end. Song Ke could not help but laugh loudly, little bastard, let's see where you can run to. Xiao Qin executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. His figure was like a rushing flood dragon, flying on flat ground. Unfortunately, the difference in cultivation realm was too great. Even with a heaven-ranked cultivation technique, his speed could not compare to a peak martial king. A white light flashed and Song Qianhe appeared behind Xiao Qin. He sent out a kick. This kick tore through the air and gave off an intense sonic boom. It landed heavily on Xiao Qin's back. Xiao Qin vomited a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. His body slid forward continuously. Song Ke had actually controlled his strength in this kick. He did not want Xiao Qin to die so quickly. Otherwise, the force of this kick would have shattered all of Xiao Qin's internal organs. Why don't you run? Run for me. The rage that Song Ke had endured for a long time was finally revealed at this moment. He revealed a gloomy expression as he walked unhurriedly towards Xiao Qin. In his eyes, Xiao Qin, who had lost the Eastern Emperor Bell, was like an ant. He could play with him however he wanted, but he could not go overboard. If he was not careful, the ant would be squashed to death. When Song Ke thought of this, he could not help but laugh loudly. It was like he was possessed, he was in a state of madness. However, just at this moment, Lu Rui, who was holding the lunar shadow saber in the distance, finally completed a certain ritual. Her already extremely weak body became even more unbearable. After the ritual was completed, the lunar shadow saber in her hand glowed brightly like a miniature sun. It quickly flew towards Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin, who was on the ground, stretched out his hand naturally and grabbed the saber's hilt. The light on the saber instantly disappeared and it became ordinary again. When Song Ke, who was originally startled, saw this. He calmed down. "Trashy master, long time no see. You are still as trashy as ever." Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out in Xiao Chen's heart. Xiao Chen became excited and forgot about the pain in his body. He exclaimed, "Ao Jiao, is that you? Is that you? Is that you? Is that you?" Xiao Chen asked "No" 3 times in a row. It was clear how excited he was in his heart. That familiar voice rang out again. "It has only been such a short time and you can't even recognize my voice. You really make me sad. Furthermore, the one who woke me up was actually a young lady. I thought I would see you the moment I woke up." The familiar voice rang out again. Without a doubt, Xiao Chen was pleasantly surprised. However, when he heard Ao Jiao's words, he could not help but feel confused. "Why did you seal yourself back then? Do you know that I—" Before Xiao Chen could finish speaking, Ao Jiao interrupted him. "Don't you want a subdivine weapon? I won't explain it to you. I don't have much time left. Let's deal with this old man first. I'll borrow your body for a while. Don't resist." The moment Ao Jiao spoke, Xiao Chen felt a strong mental energy enter his mind. Knowing that this was Ao Jiao, Xiao Chen did not resist and handed over control of his body. Slowly, Xiao Chen felt a strange state. His thoughts were very clear, and he could see the outside clearly. However, he could not make any movements. When Song Ke saw that Xiao Chen was slowly getting up, he laughed coldly in his heart. Then, he sent a kick at Xiao Chen. Another intense sonic boom resounded in the air. Xiao Chen revealed a gentle smile on his face. No, it should be Ao Jiao's smile now. It was somewhat strange for a man to have such a smile. Ao Jiao stretched her body and used her left hand to block Song Ke's kick, which was faster than the speed of sound. Then, she casually pulled back and lifted Song Ke's body into the air. What's going on? Song Ke was incomparably terrified. Xiao Chen actually blocked his attack. Not only did he block it, but he also lifted him up. This was too unreasonable. Song Ke calmed down and took a deep breath. His upper body was in the air and he did a difficult sit-up. Then, he swung the saber in his hand at Xiao Chen's head. Ao Jiao's palm struck Song Ke's wrist. Song Ke felt his arm go numb, and the saber fell to the ground. Paw! Ao Jiao's right hand slapped Song Ke, who was in midair. The strength of this slap was so great that Song Ke's body was immediately slapped back, and there were 5 clear handprints on the right side of his face. This slap was incredibly resounding. Not only did it knock out all the surrounding Heavenly Saber Pavilion inner disciples, but it also knocked them unconscious. Song Ke was completely fooled by the slap. What's going on? Didn't I endure for so long because I was waiting for this brat to exhaust his primordial chi so that I could torture him to death? Why is it that I just had a kick and the situation changed again? He is just an inferior grade martial grand master, yet he lifted me up and even slapped me. I am a peak martial king. This is impossible. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.